All right, everybody, welcome back to the Skeptic Fence Show. Tonight's guest is Tommy Robinson. Tommy, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you on our show to discuss your activism, the Islamization of Europe, and also your book, Enemy of the State. You can purchase his book on his official website, tommyrobinson.co.uk. And I believe, Tommy, it's still available on Amazon, correct? And welcome.
It is, yeah. Thanks for having me on that. It's available on Amazon, yeah, and as Kindle, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Good. Yeah, it's a pleasure to come on.
Appreciate it. A little bio, and correct me if I'm wrong if you want to correct me or add something here. Tommy Robinson is the co-founder and former spokesman and leader of the English Defence League EDL street protest movement. He also founded the EDL, and for a short time in 2012 was joint party vice chairman of the British Freedom Party, BFP. He led the EDL from 2009 until October 8th, 2013, where he was persuaded to leave the organization and discuss alternative ways of tackling extremism with the think tank Quilliam. He continues as an activist and is now involved with the development of Pegida UK, a British chapter of the German-based Pegida organization, presenting a stated purpose to counter the, quote, Islamization of our countries. Is that good, Tommy? You like to add anything?
What are you reading, Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much there, yeah. Certain things, like I wasn't persuaded to leave the EDL by Quilliam. We can talk about that in a little while, but I wasn't persuaded to leave by Quilliam. Basically, at that moment, I used Quilliam and they used me. I was in a situation where I had to leave the EDL. I had to do what I did, and I did for the sake of my family. But yeah, we can go over that as we continue talking.
Absolutely. And a sad point I'd like to bring up today is, as we record this interview, that there was another terrorist attack in the West, and it took place today in Munich, Germany, where a gunman shot up a mall, killing 9 so far that I know of. Again, this is a developing story. It seems to me, Tommy, that attacks in the West are starting to be more of a common practice by Muslims, the jihadists, almost on a daily basis or weekly. Any thoughts on that, Tommy?
I'm getting comfortable with this attack. I've seen various reports. It doesn't. If the shooter has killed himself, if he has, which is what some reports are saying,
correct, yeah.
I don't think that's a Muslim.
Okay, and what's the reason why you think that?
Because that's not his pathway to heaven. He wants to go out as a martyr. He's not getting to heaven by shooting himself dead. Mm-hmm. I think he's gone out in a fiery bang. So, but that's just my gut instinct when I'm watching what's happening. And I'm seeing it. Is it the anniversary of Anders Breivik today?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
It is.
5 years.
So I don't know. I always get annoyed when media and that are trying to push things on when they're so clearly an Islamic terrorist attack. Although I have read a witness, an anonymous witness, I believe, is saying they heard him shout Allah Akbar, because I'm seeing the headlines everywhere saying Allah Akbar. But just out of my gut instinct, when I'm watching this develop, it doesn't look like it didn't look like the MO of a jihadi attack to me.
Gotcha.
At first. I may be wrong, but it's just what I was going on. That's why I've been watching it to see, because I don't know. It just doesn't fit for me. So time will tell. Time will tell. It's not like it in commonplace that all the attacks usually or have been Muslim attacks, but I don't know why. As I'm watching it, it just doesn't seem to fit.
I can see that point, definitely. I definitely see that point, no doubt.
I didn't think when I watched the video, I didn't think it looked like it.
Yeah, and
people dressed. I just thought this doesn't. I didn't see on the video any shouting about Allah Akbar, which I presumed you would have heard the video footage of any other Muslim attack. The way he dressed, the fact that I don't know. I don't know. Time will tell. As I said, I think everyone's confused because I'm seeing different witness reports. One saying that he shouted, "I'm a German," and he was shouting anti-foreign and anti-immigrant slogans. I've seen other witness reports saying that he's screaming Allah Akbar. I've seen reports that there were 2-3 different places shot up. I've seen reports saying there was one place shot. So it all seems to be confusion at the minute. But I'm sure by the morning we'll all know.
We'll have more detail on it, yeah, because it's speculative right now. We could just see what's being reported. We know within the first 24, 48 hours that information gets skewed one way or the other, and we have to be really open-minded and really adhere to what the facts are going to be in the next 24 to 48 hours, right?
For me, no matter who it is, yeah, for me, it's been brought upon us, Angela Merkel, is responsible for her. The problem you get if this does turn out to be a far right extremist group or a disgruntled and desperate, angry fucking German who's gone out and took these measures, then the problem we have is that when people, this is what's going to happen anyway. We've been warning about this for years, if it is that way, because which none of us want, but it's inevitable. Because when you show no light at the end of the tunnel, which currently is Europeans, currently is an Englishman, currently we're looking at our countries. Our countries are being destroyed. Our culture is under attack. Our identity is being destroyed.
Yeah.
And no one seems to be stopping it. So there doesn't seem to be a political answer to this currently. They don't seem to be solving it. There doesn't seem to be any want to solve it, and it seems to be getting worse. So that and the attempt to destroy freedom of speech at the same time, destroy right to protest at the same time, like they're doing with Pegida last week. I heard last week in Pegida they're going to make them a banned organisation, or they're attempting to. These sort of things will create monsters. Now and I said it for years as the English Defence League. I remember saying, look, I think you're years away from Englishmen blowing things up. And they're going to have been created by you, created by the state, created by your policies, created by your willingness to listen, created by the fact that you are forcing people to join far-right groups. That's the way I feel. I feel you're forcing people. You're giving no alternative but pushing people to these desperate situations. But just fingers crossed that they get and prayers that they get the man or they get whoever it is before we wake up in the morning and they're shooting more people.
Exactly, and we're seeing the opposite effect here on the left, where we see, I guess you could say, left extremists killing cops and creating havoc here in the United States. It seems like it's the opposite effect here, which is odd, and I think it's only going to get worse here in the States. But yeah, I agree with that sentiment, and of course, this is a developing story. Of course, we don't have all the facts, and we got to stay tuned. Really adhere to those facts. But my first question I have for you here, Tommy, is. A lot of people that watch us might not know who you are, the type of person you are when it comes to your activism, so on and so forth. So give us a little background on who Tommy Robinson is, what kind of person you are. Also include your past, present, and maybe the future of your activism tackling Islamism. And please include your book, why you made your book, why you decided to make your book.
Yep. So I was born in 1982 in a town called Luton, which is 30 miles north of London. When I was born in Luton, there was one mosque. Yeah. So growing up, I've watched the town change. There's currently 30 mosques, pushing on 30 mosques. We have 30% of the town is Muslim. My hometown was the launch pad for the 7/7 bombers. It's the home of the fertilizer bomb plot. It's where the Stockholm bomber was radicalised. It was the head office and epicenter for Al Mujahideen, for the terrorist organisation, which is now a terrorist organisation, who's 60% of Muslims who are in jail for terrorism offences are ex-members of this organisation. Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza, they were all based in my hometown in the 80s, and the 90s. So I grew up in this town. I watched and I experienced the changes, the differences, the animosity, the hostility, the aggression aimed at us for simply being not Muslim. And you have to remember that this town is one of the most diverse towns in Europe. So I have grown up. White English people are the minority in my town. Yeah, I have grown up amongst all cultures, all ethnicities. Many of my best friends are St. Lucian, Jamaican, Italian, Bulgarian, Irish. So I've grown up with everybody, and all the way through my experience of growing up, even through the schools, I noticed, and it was a learning curve. I noticed that Islam and the followers of Islam were completely separated. There was zero integration. For example, in the school I went to, we had the Muslim playground and the non-Muslim playground, not the white playground and the black playground. It's always been divided through religious lines. And as I grew up, I realised that this group didn't fight the way we fight as kids, and because Luton's quite a rough town. Yeah. And growing up, I saw they didn't fight. There was no such thing as a one-on-one fight. You mess with one, you might as well just declared war on the whole tribe. Mess
with the group, the tribe.
Because that's it. They are coming from everywhere, and so I learned that very early. I learned that men would come up to our school, gangs of men, to fight children who were fighting the other the other Pakistani Muslim children. So just my whole life, I've watched and learned. And the final thing, I think in 2004, when we had, it was when whenever the Beslan massacre was, I was young, 20 years old, and I saw that this group, Al Mujahideen, were recruiting in our town centre every Saturday. So they'd have a big stall every Saturday, and they were openly sending people to fight against our armed forces abroad in Afghanistan, eventually in Iraq. So I'd witnessed this, and I couldn't believe, when I was a young man, I started looking into this group, and what I was seeing and hearing, it is exactly what ISIS propagate now. So I was hearing that, I was 20 years old, I was thinking, Jesus, is this really happening? I heard Saif al-Islam, his name's the Sword of Islam. He's the leader of this group, and I heard him sitting in a chicken shop in our town centre talking to a journalist. And after the Beslan massacre, which we all know what happened, is where children were massacred in their hundreds in front, and their families were dropping outside the school, screaming and crying. I remember watching it all, and then I heard this man saying that if an attack like that happened on an English school, it would be justified.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting there, and that was an alarm bell for me. I thought, what? Who are you? And so then I've started reading, started learning, I've started listening. I've started seeing who this group were, tracing all their roots, seeing what they're up to, and I was just gobsmacked of who they were, what they fought, how they fought. And I then, at the age of 20, was understanding this, what we'd now call an Islamist mindset. Yeah? I started looking into it more and more. So at that age, I was young. I organised a demonstration called Ban the Luton Taliban. I set up the demonstration amongst our football fans, our football lads, and we held it. We held Ban the Luton Taliban. Now, I stood up on the town hall steps and I read out and I made leaflets. Now, in these leaflets, this is going back to 2004. Yeah, I said in these leaflets that whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in Luton. Our women, because one of my uncle's friends was murdered. All these things were going on. My cousin was sexually groomed. What we now call grooming, which is a rape jihad.
Correct.
What we call grooming. So I spoke about all these things in the leaflets, and I said that basically the police are not doing anything. Our women are being targeted. Muslim gangs are pumping heroin, destroying our home, our community,
culture,
our culture, and nothing's being done. Yeah. So I said all this in the leaflets. I named the gangs as well, and the knock-on effect from that when I was 21 was I was targeted by all Muslim gangs in Luton, and I spent years fighting with them over these issues. It wasn't the extremists that come after me. It wasn't the extremists who I was highlighting and naming. It was really the street level gangs. So then we had a soldiers' homecoming parade. This now jumps forward to 2009. So we're 5 years later. Soldiers' homecoming parade. I went down to pay my respects to my cousin Kevin Carroll, and what our soldiers were met by mobs of Muslim men spitting at them, screaming at them, calling them baby killers, calling them murderers, butchers of Basra. So that happened, and I remember then we've seen this group grow over the years. For example, one of my friends I grew up with, he's now in jail for supporting ISIS. He's one of their members. He's a convert. So we know them all. One of the men who was doing this protest was in the year above me at school. So we're living amongst it. The Stockholm bomber lived four doors up from my auntie. So this isn't. We all know each other. Yeah, we're all living in the same community.
It's a community. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they've done this, it wasn't for me. It wasn't the fact that they did this, because we know how they think. I've known how they've fought for years. I know what they think. I know what they think of our armed forces. I know what they think of our Queen. I know what they think of our government. I know what they think of freedom and democracy. Yeah? I know it all at this time. But the police let them do it. The council let them do that. The Muslim community let them do this. The wider Muslims, they let them. They took them through our town hall. So think of that. It's like walking Al Qaeda straight through the White House, to come out the other side and spit in your soldiers' faces.
Damn.
Because that's what they did. They took them through the town hall, and at that point in 2009, they had never said no to them in the UK.
And I don't mean to interject here, which you'll hear a couple interjections here. Is this a problem you're having in the community, especially in Luton, where it's like the cops are not dealing with the uncomfortable truth? They're not dealing with the truth of the fact of the matter that this is a problem. Is it?
Well, what you've seen with the Rotherham scandal, which the Rotherham scandal, I don't know if you know about it, which is this
the publication that 1,400 children were raped, and the police actually turned a blind eye. They allowed it to happen. They actually facilitated it because of the taboo subject of dealing with the fact that all these men doing it are Pakistani Muslims and all these children are white. So because of that, and we don't want to be deemed as racist, we'll turn a blind eye and let it happen. Now, the police did that on sexual exploitation. They've done that on everything. They've done that on race crime. They've done that on anything that involves Muslim men against non-Muslims, whether it be white English boys being bullied at school. It's a taboo subject. They don't know how to deal with it. All these Pakistani kids are bullying this white English kid because he's white and English. How do we deal with that? Expel the white English kid. Expel the white English kid when he argues back. That's what's happening. So on every level, political correctness is that powerful that it's caused these problems at every level. This isn't just about sexual exploitation. This is about everything that involves the Muslim community. And in 2009, this was all still covered up. No one knew about this. So in 2009, when we started off, it had all been covered up. They've attacked our troops. They were that scared of them that they never said no. So they'd never told them they couldn't demonstrate, they couldn't march. Every other month growing up in my life, in my hometown, I see thousands of Muslims marching, because we all know they march over anything. They march if the weather ain't nice.
Yeah,
they march over everything,
and they march against England and secularism and
Gaza all the time. The amount of times I've seen Gaza protests going through my city centre where they're all calling for the death of Jews and the police are walking alongside them with big smiley faces. So yeah, that's the backdrop to it. When they done that against our soldiers, I then formed an organisation called the United People of Luton. Yeah. I wore a mask because I knew from 2004, when you try and talk about this, you're going to get hurt. They're going to target you. So I knew that. That's why I wore a mask and I used the name Tommy Robinson, which is not my real name. It's a pseudonym.
Correct.
I used that to safeguard myself because I knew what was coming as soon as I dared to talk out about these issues.
And it's amazing what you've been dealing with. And I got another question here that'll expand on this. Is it's amazing on your recent arrest where you told the cops listen, when you come around my house, you can't be wearing uniforms or marked cars. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So you want to expand on what's been happening with that deal?
So I've had in this when we started the English Defence League, I had very shortly into it. The police went to my cousin Kevin's with a shotgun. They blew up my old house. I'd moved. So the house I was registered to, I'd moved. They'd gone and blown the cars up and half the house had caught on fire. All these things were happening. And then the police called us for a meeting and we sat down and they offered us witness protection. So basically, we relocate you, you change your names, but you have to stop this activism, basically. Because currently they give me an Osman warning. An Osman warning is basically a government police warning to say that we have the intelligence that people are planning on killing you. Yeah? So I've had 6 of them, and this is all from that. So when it comes to my house, I've moved 5 times. Where it comes to now, where we are, we've basically been hiding here, and we're successfully for a while. Now, because of that, obviously I have an agreement with the police not to draw attention to this address. Mm-hmm. If the police need to see me, either ring me, but if they need to come around the house, just come around in plain clothes, take your uniforms off, because you're going to highlight things with the neighbours, with people seeing police cars. It just draws attention to me.
Correct.
So I have that agreement with the police, and it benefits me and it benefits them because they don't want public disorder things at my house. Loads of Muslims come to my house and all problems kicking off. But yeah, on that most recent one, when they come to my house, they come in uniform. But that again is such a long story, which is what I go into in my book. From the early days, from day one, from the first time I spoke out about this, there's been a continuous effort of state persecution and intimidation and harassment, not just against me, but against my wife. They've arrested my wife. They've when she was 6 months pregnant, against all of my family members. Well, what they went through one tactic to another to try and shut me up and break me. When it didn't work in the early days of targeting me, arresting me, dragging me through the courts, they then targeted my family. And even now, when it's still not working, they still know the effects. For example, that day when they come to my house most recently, my kids run upstairs crying. My kids come into the bedroom. I'm upstairs in my bedroom. And they're like, "Daddy, the police are here. The police are here. Why do the police want?"
Yeah, I watched that video, man. Yeah.
I haven't committed any crime.
Yeah,
what they actually wanted is to take me to court because I dared to have a flag that said "fuck ISIS" in France. When I was in France, not even in England, so well out of their jurisdiction. And I'm actually in court for that on September 19th. You couldn't make it up. You could not make it up.
But let's get to the last part of that question, and I got another one here. Is so of course you already spoke about basically what your book is about. So you want to expand a little bit on why you made your book and how it's. I think it's something people need to read because you're a trooper, man. Let me put this out there, man. I wouldn't want to live in your shoes when it comes to your activism, man. You are doing a tremendous job. You're being honest, objective, and you're doing a great deed when it comes to your society and the EU and speaking truthfully when it comes to this issue. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that. And expand on, why you made the book. What made you think that I want to make a book about this and tell my life story on this shit that's happening? And you can curse on the show, by the way. And by the way, your audio sounds good. So wherever you're sitting in your house, it sounds really good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I wrote the book because what I feel, and I say it again, I feel I'm going to be killed. And I don't say that lightly. And I don't think I dealt with that in the early years. My time leading the English Defence League, I thought I was dealing with it, but I don't think I was. I say all this in the book. I turned into a horrible person. I turned into a horrible husband, a horrible dad. And at the time when I look back, it's because I was probably trying to accept that. And I couldn't. And I was drinking alcohol a lot. I had a few mad years there when I was leading the English Defence League. And it was because of that fate. Because I know how they think. You know how they think. I know what they want. Yep. And I try and put myself in their shoes. What would I do? Well, I'd kill Tommy Robinson. That's what I'd do. Well, yeah, if I was one of them, I'd find him and I'd get him. So, and there's been terror plots where 6 Muslims, they were trying to find me, track me through my phone. That didn't work. Then they tried turning up at a demonstration to kill us at the demonstration. When they turned up, they had IEDs, guns, swords.
Wow, really?
Jeez, yeah, they all got 30 years. They all got 30 years in prison. Jeez. And then, funny enough, the next year I was put in prison with them. And then they tried to I put in exactly the same prison as them.
Yeah, I heard about this. Yeah, go ahead, expand on that. Jeez.
So they were jailed for 30 years, and it's a real threat. I mean, it's not me making it up. I understand that at some point, I think that's going to happen. Yeah, I think they're going to get the opportunity and they're going to take it. Now, why did I write my book? Because I want everyone to know my story. I want my kids when they grow older to understand why I did what I did and how I did what I did and the reasons I did it.
Absolutely.
And the truth, not what people say. Because also, there was a lot of hoo-ha when I left the English Defence League, yeah? And a lot of people were upset with the way I left. And I wanted them people to read, actually, you don't know what's gone on. No one knows what's gone on. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to tell you all what's gone on. There's been so much happen with police, with secret units, policing units, like basically blackmailing me. There's so much that's gone on, blackmailing me to work for them. And there's so much that's gone on that I wanted to just say, now I can lift the lid. Here's what happened. Tell me what you would have done in my situation. This is what happened. And and if I ever did get killed due to this, then it's all there. That's the truth. Well, so, and I'm honest in the sense that I even talk because I've done a hell of a lot of bad stuff myself.
We all have, Tommy. We all have.
Before the English, I'm not proud of everything I've done. So, and I haven't been perfect, and I've said that my whole life. I've said that. I've said that when I was leading the English Defence League. I'm not claiming to sit here polishing my halo.
Nobody's perfect.
I'm not even pretending. I said I'm telling you who I am. And I said, but if it wasn't for the upbringing I've had or the person that I am, I never would have done this.
Yeah.
I never would have dared speak. Do you think if I was a doctor or a nurse, I'd be doing this, telling you all these problems? I said, my life experience, even down to going to prison, has meant that I've had a complete experience, first face-on experience with Islam, the whole life. Mm. So I feel in a better position to talk about Islam and the problems, even whether it be in prison or outside of prison, than any one of these academics that I see telling me what multiculturalism's like while living in their ivory tower.
It's amazing, isn't it, man? Some of these academics, man, that try to combat you. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me, dude? It's so funny, and we're dealing with, especially in Europe and also in America here, and we got a lot of people on the regressive left. You know, which I like to call the regressive left. I consider myself a true liberal on many issues, but when it comes to this issue,
so do I.
In specific, I'm like, dude, the regressive left, the SJWs, the PC culture is destroying the conversation when it comes to Islam or pertains to Islam or the Islamization of Europe. Yeah. I'm like, it's amazing how much they're killing it. They're doing more harm than good when it comes to this shit. I'm like,
they're more dangerous.
They're more dangerous
to us.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we know what they want. We know what these Muslims want. The ones that are telling us, but these lot who are facilitating it, accommodating, and apologising for them, and telling us the opposite to what they want, are actually causing us the harm.
It's amazing.
Inviting them in, but they're not inviting them to live with them.
No.
They're inviting them to live with us. They're not going to live on your street. They're going to live on my street.
Yep, and we don't see the problem how big it is in the EU like it is in the United States, because we're not even on the same level, not even near on the same level what EU and the Europe and the nations are dealing with. But
we're probably 10, 15 years behind. 10, but
yeah, we're pretty.
You need to understand how quickly quickly it can change. Like I've looked at estates in Luton, Farley Hill, predominantly white council estate, and then just all of a sudden I'm just like, look around, what's happened here? When you're looking at when I'm standing at shops and hearing about all the attacks, and I mean, it can happen so quickly that before you know it, this whole estate has changed. So that happens on a state. That can happen on a wider level. That can happen on a town, a city, like so quickly. And before you know it, before you've had a chance to react to it, the problem's there and it's embedded.
Exactly,
like what we face now.
Yeah. I got another question here, and I'll pass you over to Anthony here, and then Grant and Paul. But I think this next question is something we really need to talk about, which I really don't hear you talk much about, and I think we need to really clear the air when it comes to this issue. And I'm going to play a 2-minute video snippet of somebody on what they think about you when it comes to racism or bigotry. So let's tackle the claim that has been made against you of you being a racist and a bigot. And of course, we're going to play this 2-minute video of somebody ranting about you for 2 minutes. But I want to get your perspective on, or at least people should get the perspective on, of what a type of person thinks about you of being a racist or bigot. So let me play this video and then we'll get your thoughts on this. So here we go.
Going, oh my god, you can't criticise an atheist, but instead, which is the astonishing thing, and this seems to be wanting to fall off, instead, I got, that's me telling me I need more petrol. Okay, what happened instead was people defending Tommy Robinson. I mean, I'm practically lost for words with that. I mean, obviously I'm not because I'm speaking, but the guy, apparently all Muslims were to blame for 7/7. He's equated all Pakistanis and Muslims and couldn't tell the difference between Sadiq Khan's wife and another woman because it does appear that all brown women look the same to Tommy.
I know you're laughing.
Straw poll in my office yesterday to see who. When I said to people, Tommy Robinson of EDL, what do you think of him? Is he a racist? And pretty much everybody said yes. One person said, it's Tommy Robinson, of course he's a fucking racist, and went in to tell me a story about when Tommy Robinson was at a rally in Warsaw. It's the way that the members of this community who feel that Tommy Robinson is okay have leapt to his defence is just incredible. And it does seem that whatever his tactic currently is, which appears to me to be try and present himself as more reasonable to gain more support, that tactic does appear to be working. So well done, Tommy. You are sucking people in. You are making people believe that you are not a racist piece of shit when you are still a racist piece of shit. But then you've got...
So there you have it, man.
Zero facts and lies.
I know, really, right?
Let's start off on my Walsall speech, yeah?
Yeah.
What I'll ask you all to do is go on YouTube and put in Tommy Robinson, Walsall. Yeah? It's easy. That will bring you up my speech. Now, in that speech, I flew back. I was on a stag do. I flew back to give that speech because this was at a time when the English Defence League had been infiltrated by the British National Party, and there were calls throughout all my regional organisers I was dealing with to unite the right, unite with the BNP. Yeah? We must unite with the BNP. We must work together. I flew back. I got on stage and I said, "What I want you to do, I'm going to ask you something. I've got to get this out of the way. Right? Put your hand in the air if you want me to unite this movement with the British National Party. You're the people on the street that matter. You're the supporters. Show me your arms if you want me to unite with the British National Party." Not one person puts their hand up. Yeah. Then I say, I don't want to hear one more fucking word about the British National Party in this movement. Do you know why I don't? I said, because if they had their way, and I started pointing at all the non-white people in the crowd, I said, he wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be here. He wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, they do not want them here because of the colour of their skin. So each thing, so all that I can bring through each thing he spoke about. He blames all Muslims for 7/7. No, that's not what I said.
This is This is the typical thing that we always speak about when we talk about Muslims or Islam, and we need to make this distinction right now. It's like when we talk about Muslims, we're talking about not all of them. We don't care about the peaceful ones.
This is the one speech that out of 6 years of speeches, having demonstrations every month, this is one speech that I continue to get pulled on. And to be honest, I've held my hands up and said I shouldn't have said it. Yeah, but what I said is, every Muslim watching this video, watch this video. Yeah? I said, I want you all to listen to me as you watch this speech. You've got away with 7/7 in the UK.
Yeah.
You won't get away with it again. Right? It's not, when this happens again in the UK, I said the English Defence League will be out in mass numbers. So, and my job, I felt at that time, because it sort of, I saw it work in the early days. I felt my job was to put pressure on the Muslim community as a movement and organisation, to put pressure on the Muslim community for them to take their radicals in, for them to deal with them. Because in the early days, we had all these problems in Luton with this Al Mujahideen who have been operating for 25 years in the town unchallenged. Then when we come out on the streets for our first demonstration, and then the second demonstration, and there was a lot of clashes. There was 500 men running through with face coverings. Everyone was raging about what was happening in the town, and it all started kicking off. After that, after Friday prayers, all the Muslim community come out and they went mad at the extremists. And the imams led it. It was all televised. The imams led it and said, get out of our community. Look at the trouble you're causing in our town.
Wow.
Now, I went straight home and emailed the imam. This was before anyone knew who I was, Tommy Robinson. I was using the name Wayne at that time, running a group called the UPL, which turned into the EDL. I messaged the imam and said, look, what you've done today is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah? But why have you done it? You haven't done it to stop hate against the non-Muslim community of your town, which has gone on for 25 years. You haven't done it because of that. That's not why you've done it. You've done it because one of your mosques has been blown up. Yeah? B, because there's people running through the streets and now your community feel a bit of fear the way we feel it. So you haven't done it for the greater good of the town. You've done it because you've been made and forced to do it.
Correct, yeah.
That's how I felt. Yeah. So when I saw that actually putting a bit of pressure in them in this town, it's pulling them in. That had the adverse effect in the end. Yeah, it didn't. I left the English Defence. I didn't really see it working in the end. In fact, at times we could our rhetoric and the way we carried ourselves could quite easily have acted as a recruitment tool for some of these extremist organisations. But I remember when this started, I was 25 years old. I was a young man. Just my life, I hadn't been educated in a way. I didn't understand politics. And I was just all of a sudden in 6 months, I'm leading the biggest street protest movement Europe's seen. And I'm doing what I thought was right. I wasn't going off a guideline or a book. I'm just thinking, this is what I'm doing next. This is where I'm going next. And this is what I think we should do. And of course, in those 6 years, 7 years, I'm going to have made mistakes. Of course I am. But when he's talking about racism, yeah, and I just done this last week. When I went out for my night out, and I do this all the time because in Luton we find this funny. The fact that I'm called a racist, we find funny because the majority of my friends are not white.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the circles I move in, anyone who follows me online can see that when I put up pictures of all my friends. Yeah, it's like, for example, now if I'm just getting some tickets for a football match. I'm trying to get tickets for a Liverpool football match. Yeah. And when I talk to the ticket tout, who knows who I am, he said, "Well, I won't put you in the cop." Which is the cop end. He said because the cop's mainly full of blacks and Asians. Yeah, that's where, if their supporters are going to be there, that's where they are. And I'm buying 6 tickets. I said, do you know what's funny? And I'm laughing my head off. And I told all my mates earlier in our group message. I said, I'm going with 5 blacks and Asians because they're my best friends. Yeah. So,
yeah, and I got something to expand on top of that. But go ahead.
yeah. And he's like, oh, right. And it's everywhere I go. So in amongst my friends and my circle of friends, I haven't been brought up in a white area. I haven't been brought up. I don't understand that ideology. I've never experienced it.
Yeah.
My best friends who I look at, I don't see them. When journalists come to Luton, they've said to me, God, there's a lot of black people here. I never even noticed that. I don't. That's not
No,
something
I know.
pick up
It's
on.
amazing. People.
That's just like, really? Well, I don't notice that because all my friends who are black have got England tattoos all over them. They all wearing England tops and they love our country.
And
they're English.
And when you were in France, I think you took a picture of your friend wearing a shirt that was a Muslim, right?
Yeah, no, that friend who had the top on, he's a Royal Marine. Yeah. He's a British Royal Marine. My friend who is a Muslim, he's Kenyan. His mum's Kenyan.
Yeah,
his mum's
Kenyan
black.
guy, yeah.
And his mum's black Kenyan, but he's a Muslim, and he was in the Royal Navy. He's a great lad. But I sit and have the open debate with him. I said, "Bro, you're not following the practices of Islam. You're not. You know what I mean? The problems that are coming from Scripture and the teachings of your Prophet, mate. And to be honest, he had to leave a madrasa. He was in a madrasa up until the age of 11.
Oh, no shit.
And his family took him out of madrasa and sent him to the school I was at because the imam in the madrasa was teaching him that his dad had the devil in him because his dad's a non-Muslim. Because his mum's a black Kenyan and his dad's a white Englishman. So then they had to pull him out of the school. So he gets it. And I know. So all these people, say like that man who's making that video, that man who's saying all those things about me. I've had this where I've walked into a pub in Luton and a student put his hand out. He said, "Oh, can I shake your hand?" He said, "How you doing, mate?" And I put my hand out to shake his friend's hand. And his friend went, "I'm not shaking your hand." I went, "What's the matter with you?" He goes, "You're a racist." I goes, "Oh, here we go again." So I got my phone out, I got my phone out in front of him. I said, "Let me just do something in front of you." I put my phone on loudspeaker and I rang. And it's my friend Nasser. He's a Pakistani Muslim. I said, "All right, bruv." I said, "How you doing, mate?" I said, "Nasser, where are you from?" He goes, what are you going on about? I said, "No, you like your country. What country's your family from?" And he went through it all and said it all in front of him.
Oh, jeez.
So then I said, then I stood there and I said, "All right, bruv." I said, "Sam, dear, what we doing?" And I was chatting away like mates. I said, "All right, mate, Sam, I'll catch you soon." I turned around to the student in front of me. I said, "You do that. You ring a Muslim now that you're friends with. Ring one. Go on." Wow. And he couldn't. I said, "You can't, can you? You can't. You've got no life experience to what I'm talking about." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, here you are. You're a student in my town telling me that I'm a racist. You know nothing about my life. You know nothing about what I think." I said, I say to my Muslim mates, I had loads of Muslim mates growing up. So I mean, it's impossible not to in the town I've grown in, but that doesn't deter or detract from the fact that Islam's a problem.
Yeah,
that the ideology that they're following, well, they're not actually following it because it's like I say with most people who are called moderate Muslims, really they're just non-practicing.
Yeah, I hate the word moderate. Jesus Christ, don't get me involved.
Non-practicing, but yeah. So all those claims, I could go for every claim that's put against me, and say like, you've never lived the life I've lived. So don't tell me about me being a racist when you definitely don't. You definitely don't surround yourself with ethnic minorities. I do.
It's amazing, man, to hear that story because I'd never heard that story from you yet, so that's great. But I do got two more questions if we can get to them at the end, but I want to move along here and give it to Anthony, Grant, and Paul real quick. They have a couple questions each. But Anthony, take it over, and then we'll get to viewer submissions, and if I get to my other two questions, go ahead.
Hello,
Anthony,
Tommy.
the other Brit.
Hello, mate. I just want to change subject real quick, and I'm going to go back into the old Muslim thing. Thoughts on Luton Town for next season?
We're going up, mate.
Oh, shit.
We're going up. No, we're going up. Yeah, I feel so confident about this season, and I haven't felt confident for years. And I do. I think we're about to crack it, and not just crack it, about going up. The future for our club looks great. The plans, and I think I play a part in this. Yeah, for positive. I do because Luton has got Luton has got the worst reputation of towns probably in the UK.
Yeah, Bradford's pretty bad, dude.
Bradford's bad, but because of the bad reputation, all the bad problems that come from Luton, the regeneration of the town is a huge priority for the government. Yeah, yep. They're about to spend £1.5 billion in our town. That is going to regenerate, and part of that development is a new football stadium for Luton Town. Nice. Because currently our football stadium is in the heart of the Muslim community. They don't want it there. We don't want it there. They're going to move it.
That's the same with Bradford. I mean, Bradford's right on Manningham Lane, which is...
Manningham, that's the area, isn't it? That's the
exactly,
main.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's so part of the regeneration of the town. We'll be moving the football club. As someone from Luton who loves Luton, the plans for Luton look great. In the money they're spending and what they're going to do to the town, it's great for the town. So I think that because of the amount we've highlighted the town, because the town become known as a birthplace of the English Defence League, because it become known as the conflict zone in the UK. Yeah. The government are going to pump millions in, and that's what we want. That's what I want anyway for the town, and I think it looks good. And
So do you see? So do you see that regeneration like having a really positive effect? Because they have tried it with Bradford. I mean, they've poured a lot of money in there, and
no, you can't polish a shit.
You can't polish a turd.
Yeah, you can't. So you can't. So it's great, as in the town needs it, but we'll still face the huge problems that we face and the demographical change of the town. I hope it just regenerates and attracts many people from London who can't afford London to then fill Luton, like a bit of a white flight from London to coming into Luton. I'm hoping. And it'll give us But
what average gates do you have there?
We get 9,000 every week. That's
not bad for League Two, dude.
We sell out. When we was in the Vauxhall Conference, we were selling out every week. So when we moved to the stadium, we'll get 20,000.
When did you get promoted?
2 seasons ago from the non-league.
Okay. All right, so that was
enough
my kind of
boring everyone about our little crap.
No, because I know football's very close to your heart, Tommy, and it is for me too.
Yeah, I just hope that. I just hope that, and that's part of what the police are doing currently now to me with this fuck ISIS flag situation. What this is really about is if the police manage to get me a football banning order, if they do, then on a Saturday, they can give me a perimeter around Luton Town Football Stadium that I can't enter, which would be probably 3 miles. Now that will include the entire Muslim community. So currently, I go to Luton football games every Saturday. Now, as far as counter-terrorism goes, as far as police planning goes, that is a problem for the police. Because I'm walking into the most densely populated Muslim community in the UK, one of them, with a high percentage of terrorism in there, and they don't know how to deal with it. But do they protect my freedom to do that? Do they police it in a way? Do they have officers on standby all the time because I want to go watch the football? Or do they just stop me going to football?
Stop me going to football, dude.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. That's all this is about. This is about them managing a situation that they don't know how to manage. And this is what they see as a way out, I think, is to just, he can't go for 5 years. That's what they're going to do.
Bullshit, dude.
Yeah, that's all it's about. And I know that. I know it's got nothing to do with me saying fuck ISIS. That's all this is about, is using that opportunity, using that problem to try and solve a problem for themselves.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what's happening. But,
my second question, I was going to ask you something about Brexit, but I presume you are in favour of Brexit.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I thought you would have been. My second question just kind of leads on from what you were talking about from when you were in prison. A very good friend of mine back in England, he was a prison officer at Armley Jail in Leeds.
Yep.
And he used to tell me about the problems of Islamic radicalisation within the prison itself. And I know you've experienced some of that. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Basically, our prisons are like ISIS training camps, and they're not getting any better.
That's what he was telling me.
It's unbelievable to see. Like each time I see or hear or I learn things, it's sort of like it's driven me when I see things, because it's driven me to realise we are in big problems here. Yeah. So when I went into prison, mate, if you could see, if every ordinary British person could see what's going on in there, what's happening in there, we need to. Something has to happen, because they are radicalising and converting an army.
Yeah, and it's not
of
brown.
It's hardened men,
and it isn't brown people, is it, Tommy?
The majority are white and black. The majority are non-Arab. The majority, but what they're doing is they're radicalising, they're converting, and it's a very clever tactic, because whoever controls the streets controls the town. Yeah? Say, for example, if I give you an example, the town I'm from in Luton, an estate called Tin Town, yeah, all tin prefab houses from the war, yeah, a really rough estate. All right, so it's one of the.
I can imagine it, Tommy. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it was known as a proper, really rough area when we were all growing up. Now we grew up there, yeah? So that was part of our area. Now, one of my mates, Barry, he was the toughest boy his age in that area, yeah? And he's a mixed race. Now, Barry went to jail. He got 4.5 years for fighting, actually, for a gang fight against Muslims, against Pakistanis. He come out a Muslim. So now, that community in that estate, which would usually show a resistance to the Pakistanis coming and selling heroin, any of the Islamisation of the estate, there'd be a bit of resistance on the streets. There's not. There can't be, because the main lad is now a Muslim. So then they've got an inroad into that estate. And that's happening from one end of the country to the other. All of the top gangsters, all of the top criminals, all of the top gang members, are converting. For example, the two gangs in Birmingham, the Burger Boys and the Johnsons, they're the two biggest gangs in Birmingham. Yeah? They're all Muslim now. They've been known for years for all the shootouts they're doing and all the gang affiliations. They're all now converted to Islam. So
Do
then,
they dye their beards ginger?
most
Watch out, Paul. Watch out, Paul.
most of them already are ginger.
Paul, that's a little jab at you there, buddy. By the way, if you can't see
Be
Paul,
careful. At some point, Paul may convert.
Yeah. You know what? I know you're in Texas there, Anthony.
Allahu Akbar coming in Texas.
That's
Jesus
it.
Christ.
But so it's terrifying to watch in the prison system, to see what's happening, to see none of these people are converting because they believe Muhammad rode a unicorn through the sky. Yeah, they're converting to a gang.
Yeah, my understanding is that these people who are converting really don't have much else to.
Live
They don't have any affiliation with any large group of people. They're adrift. They don't really know what they're doing with their lives, and then they get sucked into it.
Well, you have to remember, like, our culture, our identity has been broken down. So we haven't really got our own identity currently as a young white Englishman in my town growing up. Most of the 15, 16-year-olds are walking looking down. Yeah, they're walking with their heads down already. They're already defeated. So they haven't got an identity. Then you go into prison and Islam's powerful identity. All of a sudden you're part of this brotherhood. All of a sudden you've got a cause. You've got a reason to live. You're bought in to a brotherhood. It's powerful.
And you give them like a common cause to fight for, even if it's not the right thing.
And you're part of a gang, and if anyone messes with one of you, they mess with all of you.
Yeah.
And I can see how that works, and I can see how strong it is, and we have to give a counteraction to it.
Yeah, I saw this in the 80s. Yeah, I saw the same thing with you. I mean, I'm 45, Tommy, so I'm a little bit older than you, but I saw it in Bradford in the 80s, like late, like 85 onwards.
Yeah.
That's when it seemed to start with me. That's when it was noticeable, you know.
It's noticeable, yeah. And the imams, like 90% of the imams in the British prisons are Deobandi. 90%. Why? When we know Deobandi is a radical sect of Islam.
Yeah.
Why are 90% of the imams Deobandi? And what happens then is that any of the converts who convert in prison, they may convert to a gang in prison. When they come out, the English-speaking mosques are the Wahhabi Salafists.
Yeah.
They're the English-speaking mosques. So that's where they all end up. And it's like a little stepping stone. All the time.
Yeah.
They all come out, and then it's radical. They all end up on the radical side. And it's like nothing's being done. The government's answer to this was to send another 200 imams into the prisons. It's like you don't defeat the problems from Islam with more Islam.
So where, and this is my last question, where do you see this ending up, Tommy? I mean, trying to be optimistic about this and trying not to be too, downbeat about it. I mean,
No, I can't.
do you see any... You don't see any positives coming out of this for England?
I don't, mate. No. Unfortunately, no.
I mean, I don't either, Tommy. I've got to be in agreement with you.
You've got to be. I've searched for it, mate, and I've searched for it and wished for it, and that's why groups like Quilliam and certain reformist Muslims, they're selling us a lie, because we all want to hear it. That's why we all want to hear this answer. We all want to find an answer. We all want to, please, Muslims, sort this problem out. Please tell us this isn't going to end where we think it's going to end. It's just leading us up a garden path that we're not going to get to.
Yeah.
So final point. So thoughts on Majid Nawaz then?
I was going to say that. Damn, you stole it. I was ready to say that now.
Thoughts on Majid?
No, good. Yeah, thank you. Majid
He's a good guy. We all know he's a good guy.
He likes going to stripper clubs.
He's brilliant at what he does. He's brilliant.
But you think he's deluded? In his end game, he wants to reform Islam? Because Muslims will tell you that's impossible. We know this. I
think that look, I'm not going to start slagging Majid off because...
No. I'm not expecting you to, because
No. But at the same time, I think he's... Let me tell you what happened with me. Yeah, I had a meeting with Majid's publisher for his book to publish my book. Yeah. Now, what she said to me, this is what she said to me. Yeah, that basically she wants to write the ending, and I can have a whole career out of this. She told. That's what I'm being told. I can have a whole career. You can be this person. We can do this with you. We can do that with you. Basically, if I say that we can solve this problem, and if I want to cozy up basically with Muslims,
this is great.
If I want to say that this is how we all need to work together and do this, then there'll be a career for me. I said that's not how this ends. That's not how this is going to end.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I think Majid Nawaz, especially since my leaving of the English Defence League, would have excelled himself in his organisation, in his own personal career.
Yep.
I don't think, honestly, Majid thinks there's an answer. I've spent a lot of time with Majid. a lot of time.
Right.
So a lot of time with him, and had conversations with him when the cameras aren't on. And no, I think Majid's wants his heart's in the right place, but I think that he's selling us a bit of a lie with the whole "we can reform Islam" thing, because I think he realizes himself that's completely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people here on the left. A lot of people here on the left are thinking the same way. I think so. Anthony, anything else?
I appreciate you.
And it's actually dangerous. It's actually dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's dangerous because what will happen is, while we solve 10 or 15, we spend the next 10 or 15 years listening to people like Majid, thinking there's an answer and hoping there's an answer. In 10 or 15 years, it's going to be too late for us to deal with the problem. It's going to be that big. The problem's going to be that big. There's going to be that many more radicals, that many more Muslims here, that by that point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For them, it's a demographic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was one of my questions. I'll pass you, Anthony. Thank you very much, man.
No problem. I need the bathroom, so I'll be right back.
Yeah. I'll expand on one of my other questions here. I'll give you over to Grant here if you want to keep this short, because we got two more people here and some viewer submissions. Like Anthony stated and you stated, and then this is a question that you probably already answered here, is there an answer or any ideas we can discuss on how we can take care of or address the problem when it comes to the Islamization of Europe?
We can start.
What should we do? You know what I mean?
There's plenty we could do to start, yeah.
Okay.
Plenty. We could, for example, to address the demo, because say we stop immigration now, say we do, yeah? There's still a ticking time bomb of demographic change.
Correct.
Through birth rate. That with the way Islam's going, which is going backwards, with the way it's going, the communities are going, that's still going to cause us a huge problem.
Yeah, fertility rate is the highest when it comes to Muslims. We know that's 3.8, I think. So
5.6 for us, but
is it 5? Yeah, well, yeah, over there, yeah, but I think the average is 3.8, which Pew poll came out over an 8-year study. So,
yeah,
which, of course,
so to address that, just limit the benefit system to 2 children, not just for Muslims, for everybody.
Gotcha.
Stop giving benefits for more than 2 children, because currently every Muslim I meet, I ask them the same things. Yeah. How many children you got? How many wives you got? Right? Because I want to know. Say, for example, my local imam's got 14 children with 3 wives.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, who's paying for that?
Yeah.
Well, we are.
You are, of course. Yeah.
We are.
Oh, wait, hold on. 3 wives. So Britain doesn't have polygamy laws like we do?
Oh, we do.
Or they just don't give a fuck?
No, they're just not enforcing Muslims. So, and we've had documentaries on it. What was it? Jihad, right? No, what was one of them? There was a great documentary, but it showed another man who had 3 wives, and he'd spend one day, 3 wives, they're in 3 houses. He'd go from one house to the next house to the next house, kids in all the houses. And the mad thing is, this is happening everywhere, across the UK, and we're paying for it. We're paying for it for our benefit system, for our state benefits. So we're funding our own demise. That's one thing. So stop benefits more than 2 children. That will slow down the demographical change.
Correct. Yeah.
Stop all funding from Saudi Arabia. Stop it all. Iran, Qatar. We don't want their money. Any money. That includes buying shopping centres and football clubs.
America is guilty of that too.
Yeah, of course. Hillary Clinton's guilty of it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So.
Her campaign's funded by them. So all that sort of thing, just stop blood money. We don't want blood money. We don't want their money.
Right.
So you should, that should just be a standard. Why would we allow Saudi Arabia to build a school in London when we know? Look at Saudi Arabia. It's just look at them. Look at the way they think. Look at their ideology. Look at what they practice. Look at their human rights atrocities. Just look at this country, and you're letting them build a school and fund a school. It just doesn't make any sense. Who would allow that? So. There's so much, there's so much we could be doing. Like when Donald Trump comes out and says we must stop immigration from Muslim countries, or for Muslims coming in. I think that's a very difficult thing to enforce.
Correct.
I think it'll be impossible to enforce, actually. But by saying that, it has moved the goalpost of the debate, which we needed over here.
Bingo.
You may not have over there, at that time. Americans may not. We needed that. He's done us a great service as Europeans, because he's allowed more people and gave confidence to more people to come out and speak. Because we've been beaten down and scared. And that's just from top to bottom, from politicians, for police leaders to journalists. No one's saying it. And off the record, they'll all tell you what they think. But if the camera's in your face, no one's saying it.
Correct.
But he's moved the goalposts.
Yep, exactly. Bingo.
Yeah.
Love it.
So
you're 100% right on that. Sorry, go ahead.
So there's so much we could be doing, but we're not doing any of it. We should be deporting all criminals. We shouldn't. I don't think if a Muslim dies in a terror attack, he should not get a Muslim burial. I'd be burying him in a coffin of pork. because I'll be burying him and I've let them all know. No, I've let them all know that's what we need to do and let them all know. Yeah,
Shame
you
him.
want
Yeah,
to
shame him.
kill
Shame
someone?
him,
You want to do some terrorism? You're not
Insult
going to
them
heaven,
and
mate.
shame them. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're not going
mocking
to
and
heaven.
shaming, Tommy, right?
Well, it's
Mock
using
them
their
and
own
shame them.
using their own ideology and their own beliefs against them,
Correct. Yeah.
because you may well prevent them in doing it. And it's the same with
Do you feel like they should be mocked and shamed as a religion, just like Christianity is, I guess, worldwide?
I think everything should be open to mocking and shaming, because
Correct.
I think I should be open to mocking and shaming.
Well,
I
guess
think-
what? Watch your Twitter account.
Fuck off
Yeah.
a shot, little cunt.
Yeah,
We saw
I
what happened to
laugh.
Milo
Some of the
this week.
things said
Jesus
about me,
Christ.
I love them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of the lefty comments, some of the things they call me, Tommy Nobinson. Just little things that I sit there and chuckle and just think, brilliant.
That's like
absolutely
Carl
brilliant.
Dilkington.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
So yeah, I think everything should be mocked and
Absolutely, man.
everything and everyone.
All right.
Fuck them,
Yeah.
right? Fuck them all.
Fuck 'em, yeah.
All right.
fuck 'em up.
Yeah. Sorry, Tommy. Grant, you got a couple questions. Paul has a couple questions. I got some viewer submissions. We got about, say, 20, 25 minutes if we can do this. Grant, go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm good, thanks, buddy.
Yeah. First off, I just wanted to get your thoughts on current London Mayor Sadiq Khan.
Oh.
Well, look. So funny enough, when I was in prison, I come walking out of my cell, and I looked across. I thought, I know him, and I looked, and it was Sadiq Khan, because he was in charge of prisons, like deputy, so for the Labour Party before he could become mayor. So I went up to him. I said, "All right, Sadiq." I said, and he goes, "Oh, it's Tommy." I said, "Yeah." And funny enough, he said that he was friends with Majid Nawaz.
Wait, he knew who you were?
Yeah, he knew
Oh,
who I
that's
was.
great.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
epic.
And he was friends with Majid Nawaz, who's from Quilliam, when he was a radical. He told me that.
Oh, so he knew who Majid was when he was a radical? No
When he
shit.
was a radical.
Wow.
So Majid was one of the highest ranking people in Hizb ut-Tahrir. Yeah. So before Majid turned, like he has now, when he was a leading radical, Sadiq told me. I was friends with him when he was a radical. He told me. So then I tried to talk to Sadiq about the problems with Islam in prison, and and he didn't. Yeah, he spoke fine. He actually said he wanted to confront it and he would work to do everything he can to stop it. But when you look at his past record, he tried to get Farrakhan into the UK, who's on record as saying white people are filthy pigs or whatever, and Jews are animals, and his track record and the people he's associated with, and some of the things he's said and done, like recently, he doesn't want to ban Hezbollah flags flying in our capital. I think if Sadiq Khan was asked first, what comes first to you? This is where I have a problem with high-ranking officials who follow Islam. What comes first? Is it democracy or Islam? I think he'll say Islam. I think if he's asked what comes first, is it the Labour Party manifesto or is it Islam's manifesto, which is the Quran? I think he'll say Islam.
Yeah.
So that's what I see a problem in it. I don't see anything to get excited. Everyone's like, oh, he should be excited because look, what great diversity. We've got a Muslim mayor. No, you've got a Muslim mayor because there's millions of Muslims in London. That's why you've got a Muslim mayor.
Yeah.
All the non-Muslims, if you look at the areas which hugely voted for him, they're where all the whites have been driven out of. That's it. That's why you've got a Muslim mayor. And that's not something to get excited about. Well, if you want to get excited about integration or assimilation in some sort of way, then when you've got an entire Muslim community and they vote for a non-Muslim mayor or a non-Muslim politician, but they don't. They don't. So if the option's there, they vote for each other. I think it's a problem. I don't think Sadiq Khan's good for London. That's my personal opinion. So
Good.
Sure.
I think that his connections and when you go through things he's said in the past and comments he's made, it's quite alarming.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well said,
All right.
Grant. Go ahead. Next.
Yeah, I got one last one for you, and before I pass you on to Paul, I do want to say, over here in the States, we see everything you're doing, and we're really appreciative of it. And personally, I just want to let you know you got some balls on you, sir. You really do.
I didn't have. They're balls because I have to have them because I was hiding. You know, like when I talk about people are hiding and they're scared. That was me. That was me.
Right on.
I didn't want to do this. I hid behind a mask. I hid behind a fake name. It was forced then upon me, and then it got to a point. I shook my cousin's hand where we had to make a decision. We either run, and if we run, we're going to be running for the rest of our life, cuz.
Correct. Yeah.
We're going to be running for the rest of our life. So we either run or we let everyone know we're never going to run. And we're going to continue to say this no matter what happens. And we shook on hands and we're blood related. we shook both each other's hands, and Kev's getting back on the scene now as well. We've seen a lot more of him, but yes, I've had difficult years. Kevin had many difficult years, family problems that it caused breakdowns in his home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like I wanted to do this, or I'm not scared. It's not, because I am. You know what I mean? I'm terrified at times.
Tommy, just so you know, you have friends here. Like, we're in America, we're one of the few shows here, podcasts, that actually speak about these issues. One of the few. You know, it's just like,
but let's hope that grows.
It's hard for us even to do what we do, but I can't even put myself in your shoes to understand what you're dealing with. Even though you tell us, I'm just like, I can't fathom.
But the only way is like, when you put, you try having this argument with your wife, yeah, because I do, yeah. I try saying like, this isn't about me or you or our children.
Yeah.
This is about everyone's children.
Future.
This is about the next generation of children. Yeah, it's much bigger than me, you, and the kids.
What should you roll her eyes?
Oh yeah, of course. She says, "Shut up, shut up, you madman." Yeah. Shut up, you lunatic.
I can fucking see that. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, shit. When I'm afraid to talk about it. I talk about this shit with my employees at work, dude. And they're just like, I'm like, shut up, dude. Don't give me that shit, dude. Come on, let's be honest here. And I talk to them. I'm a manager where I work at 3 car dealerships, and I talk to my employees.
If you hosted this show in the UK, you'd be sacked tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sure, dude. I like, but we've gotten lucky so far. Trust me, knock on wood, man. We've been doing this. We've been talking about Islam and Islamism for fucking 8 months now here on the show, and just like we've been so lucky.
I watched Andy Miller from Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, so I watched Andy Miller. Yeah, I know.
I watched Andy Miller. There was a. This is where I got a bit envious of America, because everything we're trying to do in this country, or we've been trying to do, they've been able to stigmatize us and keep us as a fringe element in the public view, because they've been able to, because of the way we all walk and talk, because of the education we're all from, because of who we are and our identity as working class people. They've been able to do that. Now there's no radio host, bar John Gorn, there's no radio host who would allow these things to be spoke about properly without stopping.
Tommy, who's John Gorn? Because I saw you retweeted something in John Gorn.
John Gorn was so basically, I believe his story was he was part of the BBC, and he basically got kicked off the BBC. He was really one of the highest radio hosts in the UK, and he got booted off for refusing to accept their political correctness. He basically said no, and he had some big mad moment on the radio where he just shouted and screamed about how they're telling no one's allowed to speak their mind and all this, and he got kicked off the radio. Yeah, so he's now set up his own radio called Talk to Me Radio.
Yeah, and there's an app for it as well, isn't there?
There's an app for it. So he's set up his own thing, which he calls the home of free speech. So it's the only radio show that I could go on and talk freely about and openly about the Prophet Muhammad without getting shouted down and cut off. I'm not saying he agrees with everything I'm saying, because at times I've been on there and he doesn't. Yeah, but he gives free speech, which is dead in the UK.
So would you say that he's definitely a guy we need to get behind?
He's a guy who will allow the debate to be had on his radio show. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's a good guy. But then, so when I watched in America, I see you had leading police officers, leading army representatives. They were all at this massive conference, all just speaking openly about Islam. And I remember sitting there just thinking, wow, this is what we need in the UK. We need to, not on the street, street's one thing, but we need conferences where educated people, people who are going to be listened to are talking openly like this. And unfortunately, we're left 6 years on and we still haven't got anyone. We've got a couple of people who have popped up. We've got a couple like Katie Hopkins, for example. Now she openly talks about Islam, and she's got a slot on the radio and a slot on TV, which 6 years ago she wouldn't have had. No one would have had. So I think that we've done a job of paving the way for a bit of free speech to come in and for people to feel a bit more confident about talking about Islam.
Exactly, and that's what that's what it's about. That's what we try to promote on the show. Is like, hey, listen, guys, we're trying to be honest here. It's all about honesty and being objective on the issue, and just like we're not racist, we're not bigoted, we're just trying to promote the facts. And
the reason we do it, I keep saying that I'm banging my head because whenever something happens, whether it be an Islamic terrorist attack, they're like, "Oh, look, you'll be loving this." I said, "Loving it? We've been banging our heads against the wall for 6 years with all you idiots. Dude. We've been screaming and crying half the time because we don't want this. The last thing we want to see is what's happening, and now you're saying we're enjoying it.
And the people don't realize the danger. That's what pisses me off. It's like the danger. You don't realize it. It's like,
and it can be stopped, but you're not doing anything to stop it. And then we get we get angry or frustrated or passionate about it, and here you wankers are saying we're enjoying it. No, we're not enjoying it.
Fucking believable,
No.
man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Grant,
Yeah, yeah,
Grant,
my last
you have one
question
more,
was,
and then we'll get on to Paul, and then some viewer submissions.
Sorry about my language at times as well. I'm just.
Oh no,
you're perfectly fine, sir.
Listen.
No way.
Tommy,
Fuck you, Tommy.
we love fucking cursing. We love fucking cursing because this is a show, just a laid back show. We talk about the serious issues. We joke a little bit. That's why people love this show. That's why we had Dave Rubin.
When EDL first started, I used to swear all the time because that's naturally how I speak.
That's fine, man. Yeah, no, it's about
and
being honest.
I used to get a lot of Americans like saying, because I didn't realise like that commonly how we speak here. There used to be a lot of people in America who say, "Message me, please stop swearing." And there's only people like it was Americans, please stop swearing. So, which was a good thing for me because I've changed completely the way I talk.
Yeah.
As the speeches went on, if I watch back now a speech like from my Peterborough demonstration, I cringe.
Yeah, compared to the Oxford Union speech.
Yeah, I cringe at how I was talking and who I was. I'm like, Jesus, no.
No, but you're still giving the same message, Tommy. I don't mind the vitriol. I love the swearing every now and again.
Yeah, every now and then they have to have the odd for the meaning in amongst it. But at times, when I watch back old speeches, it's just like, no, you don't need. What was you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so true.
And I was pissed up most of the time. So yeah.
God damn.
Oh yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you only can be. So go ahead, Grant. I'm sorry.
So my last one. Anytime I would go to research Tommy Robinson, the first thing that always comes up is UK's public enemy #1, or he's the most racist. What is the feel over in the UK of how people approach you?
It's not that. That's a bit of a facade, really. Look, I am UK's most hated in the Muslim community, and the far left. But let's get it in. You see that far leftist liberal elite? I don't see them. Like, everywhere I go, people shake my hand. If I go into a pub, people buy me drinks.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. You know what I mean? That's why I kept going out. But so I never in 7 years of doing this have had a negative reaction from any non-Muslims other than once which was again in a posh area. So posh people who went to posh schools who have no idea what multiculturalism like to live or grow up amongst, who are then thinking they're judging on me.
Yeah.
But when I walk around the areas I walk around, when I see West Indians in Luton, when I see Sikhs, when I see Hindus, everyone shakes my hand. Yep. In fact, when I go into interviews and TV debates, this is no joke. I've been on some of the biggest TV shows in the UK. When I walk out, all those people, whether they're holding the camera or doing the makeup, are agreeing with me. So I know if I thought I was wrong, if I got some sort of negative reaction where I go, I'd question myself, but I don't.
So
I get a hero's reception everywhere I go.
Yeah, you're on the right side of history when it comes down to it. So you're
and I know that. And so when I know this is how people are feeling, I know even the people interviewing me on TV are feeling it. And here they are lying. Turn the camera on, and here they are grilling me. Turn the camera off, and they're shaking my hand and telling me they admire me.
It's just a game, right? Is it just a game, Tommy?
It is.
You can definitely tell they're scared if they're doing that. They're scared of speaking up.
It's a shit game.
What I love, Tommy, is that you were recently on, I think it was last year, on a podcast in England where they had a Christian guy on talking to you about Christmas, around the Christmas season. And this guy had the balls to bring up scripture from the Quran. I think it was 532 or 532, where he stated, like, hey, listen, when somebody kills somebody, it's like you're killing humanity. And you're like, and you're trying to talk, you're like, but, and you kept on going. It's like you let the guy finish, and then you also go, "What about the passage after that?" And he didn't want to answer you. Oh, do you know about that passage? He didn't know. I'm just like, I was laughing so fucking hard. I'm like,
where he's addressing the children of Israel. The
correct, yeah.
And that actual, do you know what that Christian? That was about. So in the UK on buses, on all of our buses, they've got adverts, basically Allah, praise be to Allah.
Yeah, the adverts. I'm like, holy shit.
And then all Islamic writing, So they've got that on all the buses. Now the Christian groups weren't allowed that. So when I went on the radio to argue and debate about this, they had a representative from the Islamic Relief Charity, which is a Muslim charity, and the representative was a Christian.
A Christian. I'm like, what the fuck?
What you find is what I found is, like, I've met the most far left Christian representative in Luton. I don't even think he believes in God. I don't even think he believes in God. I don't think he believes in Jesus. In fact, I think he's using the church for his own far left political views.
Exactly, yeah.
and we've seen an infiltration of the church.
That's exactly
to
how
use
I
it in that
looked
way,
at
and an excuse to use the church in that way. And what we now see is, I don't see representative. I talk about the church in England in my book, and I say they don't represent me. Yeah, that weak, pathetic cowardice is not who I am, and for me, I'll never follow a Christianity representation in this country when it's as pathetic as this.
Are you religious, Tommy?
I was brought up religious. My mum's devout religious.
What about you?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, because all of us here, I'll be honest with you, all of us here, I think I can safely say that we're atheists, but
I'm not. But I don't. I'm not.
You're not. I know you're not.
No problem with other religions. I'm not going to start attacking in any sort of way Christianity or the people who follow Christianity.
Correct,
or any other religion. I don't feel a need to mock it because I don't feel it does anything wrong.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't think the way of life. In fact, I think it's quite a beneficial way of life. If you want to live by the Christian way of life, then I think it's benefited this country. But I don't think.
And it's not as dangerous.
I would disagree with you, Tommy, but that's a
many would. Yeah.
No, but the funny thing about this, Tommy, is like when we look at people in America, and then we see our share of attacks by Islamic extremist jihadists, right? We see that, and then when we bring up these topics, we have the regressive left out there trying to compare it to abortion bombings in America. I'm like, you can't compare it to. I'm like, when it comes down to less than 1% of a population compared to 33% of, say, Christian extremists or right-wing extremists in America, you can't compare it to.
Like, with people bombing abortions,
oh my God,
there might be a bit of an end goal there that people couldn't. If there weren't abortions, they'd stop. Well, these lot, they ain't gonna stop.
It's amazing. Bingo, exactly. Yeah, man, it's not gonna stop. It's so amazing. But let's move on to Paul here. Paul, I think you got a couple. I got some viewer submissions, and we're done here. Go ahead, Paul.
Alrighty. All right, Tommy. Thanks for coming on the show. It's great to have you. I should say.
Yeah. Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Yeah. So this actually kind of follows what we've been talking about right now. Is what would your response be to someone who says that you shouldn't be proud to be British, or in our case, American? Like, just having that nationalist pride or a bit of nationalism is being racist and xenophobic. What would you say to someone who say that to you?
If you take that out of America, then you're going to be left in the huge problems we face. Where, look, we haven't even encouraged or tried to encourage minorities who have come to this country to be British, feel British, class themselves as British. We've actually told them that actually your culture is equal to ours. You're all equal. We're all equal. No, our culture is better than theirs. That's why they've run away from their country to come to ours. Our way of life is superior here to the Middle East. And I think that unless you identify with that, you end up in the mess that we're in, where people have lost their identity and we have all these ghettoized communities built based on people not having an identity. So in America, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but with all swearing allegiance to the Stars and Stripes flag, you've sort of bring everyone up to feel American.
Correct, yeah.
Whereas many, you stop a lot of ethnic minorities who are born in the UK, they're still flying the flag of their great-grandparents.
Yeah.
They're not flying the British flag. They don't feel British. They don't. So I think we should be encouraging nationalism. I think every school should be flying St George's flag. Correct. I think we should be encouraged to sing God Save the Queen. I think we should be encouraging our children in order to give them that sense of belief and belonging. And that's not just white children, because we must encourage all of the ethnic. If we want to live in a correct society, in a cohesive society, we've got all these different cultures and people here. We have to make it work. The situation we're in, Islam's not going to work, but outside of Islam, we have to be doing everything we can to make this work.
Exactly.
Now, part of that is to encourage nationalism. That's what I believe. But that's not a nationalism that means to be English you have to be white, because you don't, in my eyes. And people may argue with me on that. I always say multiculturalism hasn't failed. I say that in the sense that, look, just be honest, Islam's failed. Why blame Sikhism? Why blame Jews? Why blame the Irish? Why blame the Polish? Why blame the Italians? They've all come here and integrated. They've all come here and been fine. It's
like you're so right. I don't mean to cut you off, Tommy, but you're so right on that. It's like when we look at the Pew polls and the statistics out there, when it comes to the world, in a Pew poll in 2013, it's like there's about 1.1 billion Muslims in the world, right? And 1.1 billion of them support Sharia in some form or another, and this is something that you don't see from any other religious demographic. And here in America, there's a poll out there, the policy poll out there. I forget the name of it, but I'll link it down below. Is that 51% of American Muslims wish they had their fucking choice between Sharia courts
well, that's the reason,
or
that's
U.S.
the,
courts.
I'm
like,
that's
and
the
people don't
Donald
address
Trump made the
that.
statement, isn't it?
They don't want to address that. They don't want to address that fact. The left. I'm just like,
because they can't. Because if they accept it, this is where you go so far. Like, if you accept that. So if in the UK we've got 4 million Muslims and we know that 33% of them want Sharia law, if we accept that, what are you going to do with those 1.8 million people?
Correct.
Or 1.5 million?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What's your answer?
Correct.
You've invited them here. You've brought them here. 51% of them don't now want Sharia law. What are you going to do about it? What can you do?
And it's
at this point they bury their head in the sand and don't want to talk about it.
And it's creeping Sharia. It's creeping. They get their way in the beginning, and then they
chip.
I know they chip
The
away.
chip
at it,
effect.
of
The
course.
chip effect. The chip
Exactly
effect.
what they're doing. You're 100% right. That's
Yeah.
why I want to bring
And
that up right there. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that goes to the thing. What I always thought when people say that that you can't judge their culture and things like that, I said no, we can actually judge the culture, and that's what I was thinking with like the British instilling. You said it earlier in the interview about people being British without having to be white. Which I mean it's not just about being white, and Americans not just about being white. It's a certain mindset, it's a certain culture that's been inculcated in Britain and in America, and I think that I think, like you said, it should be encouraged. At least the pride in the country, the pride in those values that we had. And I mean, some of them are based on some things with Christians, but for the most part, it's been secularized as much as possible. And that actually gets, I think, to my other question. You were talking about EDL and Quilliam, and if you're okay with it, kind of expanding on that a little bit, because I know recently there was a falling out with another person who's against the far left, the regressives. With Quilliam too, that ended up with him actually going to a new platform.
And who's that?
Dave Rubin. He had wasn't it Quilliam that he had a bit of a what's that now?
Has he had a falling out of him? I don't. So with myself, if I explain to you what happened, so basically, look, I have, as I said, if you go on YouTube and look at Tommy Robinson attacked, you'll see plenty of images of me walking through my hometown, coming under violent attack, whether it be in my car or punched or beaten. I've been hospitalised. I've had blood clot on my head. I've had time and time. Every time, if I go out, I have to be ready. When I walk out, and I learned to live like it, and I live that way. Where if I go into Asda, like Walmart, I'm ready to fight. I have to be, because someone's gonna. I've been in every situation you can think of. Petrol stations, out having dinner, and problems have started. People have wanted to say something, and I've had to adjust to that and become basically immune to that sort of reaction, and I'm ready for that reaction at any time of the day. Now, I know what it's like to live like that. There's no image of my wife online. You can't find a picture of my wife. That's been very difficult to do that. Now, I have 3 young children. My wife walks through the town with the children. She doesn't get that reaction because no one knows what she looks like. I know that. The police are fully aware of that. So what happens is the police have got me on charges. They've had me on these charges for 4 years. They've frozen all of my accounts, closed my businesses. They basically just come in on this financial restraint. They put me on a financial restraint, froze my assets, gave me an amount I could live on. Basically, all these orders they brought in, and they were investigating me for tax evasion. 4 years this went on for. They destroyed my businesses, closed them all. For 4 years. Then I go to court on these charges of tax evasion, and I walk out with a not guilty straight away. And then they've got another charge against me of mortgage fraud. They've got no evidence. Their case is absolute nonsense. Now, what they did in between these 4 years is they arrested 6 other members of my family. They arrested them on things like not paying tax on things they sold on eBay in 2006. No joke.
Are you kidding me?
You're fucking kidding me.
No joke.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
When family members are filling out mortgage forms, if one of them said, say for example, one of them said that his deposit come from savings, but then when the police trace where the deposit comes from and it comes from their mum or dad or a family member, that's a lie. You've lied on your mortgage form. You've committed mortgage fraud. That's a lie. You've lied in order to obtain the money, which means when you've got the mortgage money, that then becomes fraudulent money. Any profit you've made from that money then becomes proceeds of crime. This is what they did with all of my family. When I went through their investigation, when I was going through all their evidence, they'd actually done this to my mum's accounts, my dad's accounts. They'd done every one of my family. When I say gone through with a fine-tooth comb, they've looked at everything you can think of, yeah, to find anything, car insurance, everything. Right? So then they've got a position where they've got 6 of my family members. Now you have to realise that I'm seeing these family members who are crying their eyes out. They're terrified. They're worried. They're not that worried about the poxy little case because none of them can go jail. Yeah? They're worried about being in the middle of a court case with me. They're worried about the media attention. They're worried about their bosses knowing that they're related to me. They're worried about the whole situation. So I'm telling them the whole way through this isn't about you. This is about me. I know where this is going. I knew the whole time where this is going. It's like a game of chess. That's how I look at it. They're going to do this. They're going to do this. I'm trying to view what they're going to do. And the whole time I know they want me in prison. Yeah? That's what this is about. They want me in prison. So at some point I'm going to get offered a deal. And I know that. I'm not stupid. I've worked out. So I know I'm going to get offered a deal. And then, so I walk out of court with not guilty. As soon as I get the not guilty, the prosecutor stands up, who after my case was actually made up to a judge by Chris Grayling, who's in charge of the... So I think it's all a fit up. But he's made up to a judge straight after my case. Now, as soon as they do that, they stand and they give a date for my wife to stand trial. Right? In front of all of the media, in front of all of the people in the public gallery, in front of the Muslims who are sitting in the public gallery, all the far left groups that have come to this court case are then told that my wife is going to stand trial in 2 weeks. And they give the date that she's standing trial for tax evasion. Yeah? So I then have to go home. I tell my wife, look, you're going to stand trial in 2 weeks. It's going to be packed with media. This is the end of basically you having anonymity and being safe in my eyes, yeah. Right. So I tell her that, and then at 2 o'clock that morning, so she's crying anyway. 2 o'clock in the morning, counter-terrorism rush the house. Yeah, they come to the house, bang, bang, bang. They get us all up. They say that a video has been intercepted from Al Shabaab. This is 5 or 6 weeks after Al Shabaab have massacred and chopped everyone up in a Kenyan shopping mall. They sit and tell me and my wife that Al Shabaab want me killed at all costs. I've been named to be killed. Yeah. So they sit and tell us that. So you can imagine, and they know this. The thing is, this is like a game. They know all of the effects all of these things are having. They know when they go and nick my family relatives, they know that they're coming back to me crying. They know that I'm sitting in family meetings and all my family are looking at me saying, what the hell have you done? Look what's happening to our family. They know that. And I used to say to my family, when they're all crying, I say, you realise this is why they're doing this, and by having this reaction that you're having, you're letting them win. Because that's why this is happening. This is happening to destroy our family life. This is happening so you cry. This is happening so you're scared. That's why they do all of these things. And by doing this, we're allowing them to win. That's the way I see it. And we're letting them win. And then they give a date for my wife's due to stand trial in 2 weeks. I go to court. I'm in court the next day for a mortgage case. I go into court and I'm offered a deal. Yeah. And I've got all of this on video as well. I'm offered a deal where it's told, if I plead guilty, they will drop all of the family members. I've got it in black and white, in writing. I asked for it in writing. If I plead guilty, they'll drop all my family's charges. Yeah? I said, how long will I get to my solicitor if I plead guilty today? He said 3 to 5 years. So I go outside court, I ring my wife, I say, listen, I'm getting 3 to 5 years. Yeah? I said, but they're dropping all of yours. They're going to drop it all. But in between this is when I left. So just in between these 2 dates of this happening, I left the EDL. Now, the reason why I left EDL is because I went to prison in 2011 with the EDL for illegally entering America. In the 5 months I spent in prison, the English Defence League donated £1,800. Now, my outgoings in my house are £2,000 a month. Yeah, I used to be earning. My businesses used to earn I was turning over £200,000 a year. So I was used to living on high money before the English Defence League. I had a successful life, and all of a sudden here I am, where I'm on a financial restraint. I've got no money. So as this is coming to the end, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm looking at 3 to 5 years. If I get 3 to 5 years here, then my family bills not get my family's fucked. Yeah. At that point, my family, my children at that time have lived in 5 houses in 4 years, because of all this. They're settled. They're settled in their school. They're settled with their friends. Now, they're not going to pay their bills when they can't, because I'm in jail. When that happens, they're then going to have to go to the town hall and the council. They're then going to be relocated in the Muslim community, because I know that's exactly what they'll do. Yeah, they'll be relocated in a council house in the middle of them, whilst I'm sat in prison. So I know I'm looking at all these different. If this happens, this happens, this happens. I'm then sitting there terrified, thinking, "What the hell am I going to do?" At that point, I've spoke with Quilliam, and I use Quilliam they used me. The agreement I had with them was that however long I'm in prison, just whilst I'm in prison, you pay my family's bills.
Yeah.
You pay their rent. So I know I'm ticking boxes here because I know I'm going to prison anyway. So I'm ticking boxes, and I want to be able to sit in a cell knowing that my kids are all right and that my wife's all right.
Okay.
So at that point, I leave the EDL. So everyone's watching me leave the EDL, sitting next to these counter-reformist Muslims, and to be honest, it's all bullshit.
Okay.
But what everyone's watching from the outside, they're watching, and I'm sat there, and I'm saying to people, there's more to this than what any of you know. Yeah. But I simply can't talk to you about it because I'm just waiting to go to jail.
Yeah.
And and at that point, then,
damn.
So when people, this is why I wrote the book, so people understand fully. Actually, this is what went on, and what was I meant to do? Well, because I wish I could have relied on the English Defence League to cover my wife's bills, but I couldn't. Because when I went to jail the time before, they didn't. No one did. My wife was left on her own. So for the first time in 6 years, I put my wife and children before I put the cause.
Yeah.
For the first time, and then when I walk into court, I'm looking at 3 to 5 years. I ring my wife and say, look, I'm going to get 3 to 5 years here. She goes absolutely mental on the phone. She goes, you can't do it because I haven't done the crime.
Yeah.
I haven't even done the crime.
Right.
So she's going mad. I then walk back in. I speak to my solicitor. I say, I'm not taking a deal. Let's go to court. Let's go to trial. Do what you're going to do. I walk into court, and I walk, and they don't want a trial because I'm getting not guilty. They know that, and then I'm in a position where I can probably do them for everything they've done. So I walk into court. They swear the jury in. I've got a PCSO, which is a police support person on my jury, and I've got three Muslims on my jury, and they sign them in. And just as we're about to start the trial, they pull me back outside again.
Wait, is this 3 Muslims on your side or
no? 3 Muslims. So you have a jury of 12, and when they're swearing all the jury of 12 in, I'm listening to the names, looking at them.
Okay, so you
Muslims.
got on jury.
I've got 3 Islamic names. Yeah, so they're finding me guilty. That's the way I see it. You'll find me guilty no matter what the evidence is. So I'm then sitting there. I then look at So then I'm called out again. They call me out just as we're about to start trial. They call me out and say, plead guilty to these charges. They've dropped the charges lesser. So I say to my solicitor, how long do I get for that? They say a maximum of 2 years. So I said, deal. Because I know out of a maximum of a 2-year sentence in the UK, you will only serve 7 months in a prison cell.
Oh, okay, so it's less than a year. Okay.
So when I'm weighing it up, I go to jail here for 7 months. All of my family's charges are dropped. Yeah, all of my family can relax. Quilliam are paying my wife's bills.
Okay.
This is the deal I'm taking. I'm gone. So
you're protecting your family at this time. You're just
at that point, I'm off to jail. So and then I go to prison. So at that point, and that was and I never, from the minute I come out of jail, I had no more contact with Quilliam. The deal was simple. You pay my wife's bills. You look after my family whilst I'm in prison, and that's it. And that's just me being honest, that's why I wanted to tell this, because when I was leaving, all these people are questioning. They're all questioning the motives, what's gone on. That's what went on. And then I've come out of prison. But even when I went into prison straight away, then I was locked in a room, and I think they tried to have me killed.
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that.
I actually, that's what I was, just to wrap up that question about Quilliam, I asked because I want to know what happened there. The same thing with Dave Rubin didn't want to, and I think if I have it correctly, he didn't want to talk about it because he wanted to secure things, and he might talk about it in the future. But I just want to see what's going on with people, because I've heard things about Quilliam. I've heard some good things about Quilliam. I've heard some bad things about Quilliam. So I just want to know information on it. And
Quilliam, they say, look, the work they do is good. You listen to Majid, he's good. But I think they're living a bit of a lie.
Got it.
And that's
the last kind of question I had with that is you talked about prison, and I've actually seen the interview too. You really you wrote the book, you said, because you think you'll probably die. Do you think, I mean, how do I put it? Do you feel safer? I don't know. You talk about going to prison. You had to be kind of like kept safe, separate. Do you think they're actually trying? I don't know how to put it. Do you really fear for your safety that much?
I feel that
we got you, Paul.
100% think people have been pulling strings, and they've put me in positions where they think I get killed, and they're probably scratching their head as to how I didn't. So,
Okay.
and I know that from when I landed in prison for this offence that I'm talking to you about. When I pleaded guilty and took this deal, I landed in prison. A screw come to my door, which is a prison officer, and he told me straight. He said, when they come to, he was an ex-Royal Marine. He said, when they come to get you from this cell, do not leave this cell. And I said, what? He said, I'm telling you, your life depends on it. When they come and open this door, do not come out of this door. Yeah. So I said, okay. And then 10 minutes later, the door goes, and it's him and 2 other prison officers, and they say, come on Lennon, you're going to B wing.
No.
Yeah. And I ain't going nowhere, mate. I said, I ain't going nowhere. So then he said, if you don't go, I'm going to arrest you for refusing to leave. I said, fine, arrest me. So then he arrested me. Then he come back the next day. He come back later and said, do you know where they were taking you? I said, where? He said, the 6 Muslims that were doing 30 years for planning to kill me.
Kill you, exactly.
They were putting me with them.
My God.
And then the next day, my solicitor's come to see me. I've gone up to see my solicitor. I've seen my solicitor. I've come down afterwards on my way back to my cell block with the prison officers. They've opened a waiting room. There's a little waiting area. They've opened the room where you have to go in and sit. I've looked straight away and seen all the beards. So I haven't sat down. I've just stood with my back against the wall. They've put me in the room, locked the door, and then bang. That's it. They were waiting, and then it's all just kicked off. I've lost my teeth. I've had my head glued up. My eyes have closed up.
Yeah, we've seen the pictures.
Yeah. So I've
Yeah.
had full, and that can't happen by accident. That doesn't
Yes.
happen when you're who I am. When you're who I am, and the prison have guidelines and rules of all of these things, they're not even allowed to put gang members near each other because they have a duty of care for people's safety. Now, there wasn't just a lack of duty of care; there was an intentional purpose
for
of
that,
getting me hurt. Now, I don't think they thought I'd walk out, but I did. So, and that didn't happen just once. That hasn't happened just once. That happened 3 separate times. The next time they end up bringing charges against me because I prevented a Somalian who was trying to throw boiling water in my face. I beat him up before he had.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I beat him up,
Yeah.
and then I got further. But I shouldn't be in that situation. There's no way that I should be in a situation where I'm with Muslims.
No.
Dude, the
In a
law
prison.
enforcement there is really backwards, man.
And
it's so
I
backwards.
apologize for.
It's bad.
I apologize for the clumsy wording of that. I wanted to couch it so that it didn't sound conspiratorial. But good God,
No,
it
no,
does
I mean-
sound like they.
To be fair, Somalians are pretty easy to beat up. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all skinny guys, you know what I mean? It's,
Well,
So
Except
this
for
was
cod. No.
and this actually ended up going on 24 hours in police custody. If you watch it, it's a documentary in the UK where they put me in jail. They put me in jail with no reason. Yes, I landed from a family holiday with my 3 children. The police are waiting there. They nicked me, took me down the cells. I end up in Peterborough prison. Yeah? And this was so it's a long story. It's all in the book, the ins and outs of it. Yeah? But they nicked me, and then when I get to the reception of the prison,
Well, hold on, Tommy. Let me give you a little promotion here, a little shout out. Guys, get Tommy's book, man. You can get it at Tommy Robinson at co.uk or on Amazon. Please go check it out. I can't wait to read
of
it.
the States.
Can't read
Yeah,
it. Yes,
thank you.
please.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tommy.
yeah.
Sorry.
And when this has come, I've got 8 days. Yeah. So when I work it out, I'm in for 8 days. So I get to the reception of prison and just say, "Listen, I've got 8 days here, man. Like, I'm going to get killed in there. You know it. I know it. So just put me in a cell and open the door in 8 days. I'm not bothered. Yeah. I don't want to come out of the cell. I don't want to get. I actually want to leave prison looking like this, looking the way I do. I've got kids. And they didn't. They walked me straight onto a wing where four of the lads on there have just been sentenced to 28 years for cutting some bloke's nose and ears off and killing him. This is a Muslim gang.
Oh my God.
And then within a day, of course, I'm fighting. And then what they then do is they try and prosecute me. They try and prosecute. When I get out of court, they come and further arrest me months and months later. 6 months later, they nicked me. Again,
And this is for protecting yourself, right?
this is for protecting myself. And I said in interviews, as soon as they nicked me, I said, "Yeah, I beat him up. Yeah, of course I did." I said, "Well, you want me to let him put boiling water in my face?" No.
Right.
Oh my God.
I think maybe some Americans won't know. And I mean, most people here probably haven't been in prison, but I do know that in England, especially from what my prison officer friend told me, is that they do segregate wings out based on race and stuff like that, right, Tommy?
Well,
I mean,
no,
those are. I mean,
what they have is if you're scared or you're in fear, and that, they have what they should have done is in 2011 they put me on solitary confinement for 22 weeks. The first time I went to prison, and that was for illegally entering America. They put me on 22 weeks in solitary confinement. Now they're not even allowed to do that really because of mental health issues. You're only allowed 4 weeks on solitary confinement. I done 22 weeks because at that time it was the only way they could keep me safe.
6
Now when I go,
Fucking
yeah.
hell.
Yeah, when and that was it was at that point, that was the best thing that happened to me at that time, because I was on maybe a suicide mission, I'd say. Like, I was on a one-way path of destruction, where that's at the time where I probably wasn't dealing with the fact that I thought they'd kill me, and I was trying to sort of encourage them to kill me at the time. I don't know. I was I was not in the right state of mind at that time.
I guess,
I'd had 2 mad years. My whole life had just changed in 2 years to here I am leading this movement. Everyone would say I was a great leader to the English Defence League at that time, but I weren't a great husband. Or a great, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd taken over my life. And then I had this 22 weeks on solitary confinement where I was able to evaluate and think about it, sort of non-stop thinking. I'm sat in a room for 22 weeks. And also I'd been drinking quite a lot. Before the English Defence League, I didn't drink. I weren't that person. And it turned me into a different person. And the movement did, and the way I was living, the sort of like, I was constantly doing social events across the country in pubs. And as I said, so when I went to jail, it was the best thing that happened to me, because it probably saved my life in the sense that I was on a mess.
It probably did, and that's great to hear. But you got to remember.
Problem.
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry. What were you gonna say?
That was kind of my problem with the question, because I know you fear for your safety being outside and the Muslims who are around you, but at the same time in prison you had this experience as well. So I was going to try to ask if you felt you were more at risk in prison or in just in general, but
was it awakening like you stated? So.
Yeah, well, and when I'm outside, I can make a decision myself whether I walk down that street or walk down that road, and I know where the Muslim gangs are, I know where their areas are, so I can consciously make a decision to avoid those areas if I want to. When they put me in prison and they put me on a wing full of them, I've got nowhere to run and nowhere to hide.
And of course, they know who you are.
I can't make the decision. I'm now living with these people who want to kill me. So prison. I feel each time I've gone to prison, and their most recent attempt, which I had given up fighting. Their most recent attempt for punching this Somalian, I'd given up fighting because every case I've been through, I didn't think you can fight it, because everything that happens, they're allowed to do whatever they want. And then there was a campaign to get me a QC, a financial donation campaign, and it got £32,000 donated in a week. And it was then that I felt, Jesus, like the support. I felt it gave me such a lift. And then I went in to fight the case. So I had the best QC you can buy. And do you know what? He absolutely tore it to pieces. In fact, afterwards, he forced them to offer no evidence once he got started. He said he's never heard anything like this, what's gone on. But if I wouldn't have walked in with him, and I'd have walked in with a usual state-sponsored defence, I'd be in jail again. And I know that going to jail don't mean I've got to go sit in a cell for a month. It means my life's in danger. It means they're going to have another attempt to kill me.
Kill you.
Yeah. And he said, so those people, generally, all those people who put those little donations in may not even think they've done that much, but I think they saved my life.
That's great. Right. And Tommy, just to let you know, in the future, man, if you need any help, dude, reach out to us, man. We'll definitely put out some kind of campaign out there and some kind of charity event to help you out in the future.
Yeah,
so,
thanks.
Dude, definitely. I'm like, our fans, like,
you got a lot of friends over in the States, dude. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize how many friends I had until this campaign, because I have a lot of people all the time say, "Yeah, I'm with you," and I used to think, when I was sitting in prison on my own, I thought, no one's with me, mate. I'm sat here, my wife's at home.
Right.
This is how it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is how. But then when that happened, I never felt such a lift.
That's incredible. And that makes you feel good, no doubt.
Messages were coming in from all over the world.
Listen, Tommy,
and I realised then that we've moved a long way in 6 years.
Time will tell, Tommy. Time will tell, Tommy, that you are on the right side of history.
Correct.
Bingo. And I'm confident now. I remember saying on English Defence League stages, you all want to judge us, yeah? But history will judge us all. And I know what side history is judging.
Exactly. And like Anthony stated here, you got friends here in America. We got us. We're one of the bigger podcasts here in America. And we try to promote that. So if you ever need help, let us know. Our followers, our supporters we've done charity events in the past where we've raised thousands in one show. So if you ever need any help, you let us know. And people, please go.
Brilliant.
Go buy.
If anyone's interested, then this weekend in England, I'm sleeping homeless which again is a bit of a danger, because obviously I'm going to be telling everyone where I am.
Oh, it's like a protest or something, right?
I'm sleeping homeless for a children's cancer charity.
Yes,
it's a children's cancer charity who
raising money.
the Amelia May Foundation, and there's a family. This one family, they've had 5 children. 2 of them have died in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I heard about this.
So we're raising the money to send the family to Disneyland. So
that's beautiful.
Anyone wants to make a charity donation, just go on my Twitter. There's a Just Giving link, and all the money goes straight to the charity. Don't
worry, Tommy. We'll put all the links in the description for the video.
Tomorrow night when this goes live, I'll hit you up. Give me that link. I'll definitely promote the show that tomorrow night before we do this interview. So post it. Okay, at the end here, I got a few viewer submissions, and we're done here. If you're okay with that, Tommy.
I'm cool with it.
Tommy, thank you very much for answering my questions. It was great talking to you and great listening to you during the interview.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.
Good luck there.
Pleasure.
All right, so I got about 2 or 3 questions here. If you want to keep them short, that's great, and then we get out of here. The first viewer submission is from Dark Matter 2525. If you don't know who he is, he has over 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. Good friend of the show, good friend of mine. I've been friends with the guy for like 4 or 5 years now. So,
what's he do to have that many subscribers?
He does animation about religion. And he's been tackling
like cartoons.
Yeah, he's been. I'll send you the link, Tommy. In a
I'll probably
DM.
watch some of them because I watch loads of cartoons.
Oh yeah. Trust me, you probably.
It's not Tom and Jerry, Tommy.
You definitely watch his cartoons, probably if you watch cartoons. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy, great friend of mine for like 4 or 5 years. He's been on the show plenty of times, and he's a great guy. And he asked 2 questions here. If you want to keep these short, that's fine. The first question is from him. Dark Matter is. How would you distinguish a Muslim from a Islamist?
A Muslim from an Islamist. It's like the word Islamist, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I think the word Islamist lets Islam off the hook.
Correct.
That's how and I understand the reasoning. Basically, by creating this word Islamist, it's gave all these people who are unwilling to criticise Islam publicly an opportunity to criticise Islam. That's how the Prophet Muhammad was an Islamist. If you're going to go down as an Islamist as enforcing Islam...
Well, he was the first jihadist too, right?
Yeah, he was the first jihadist. So this word Islamist, which has been created, I think it's been created for that reason, so that news presenters can say, how disgusting Islamism is. Well, what is Islamism? What is Islamist? It's pure Islam. It's enforcing Islam. All these things that you talk about are Islamist ideology. Yeah. You take them away from Islam, there's nothing left.
Correct. Yeah.
So how do I distinguish a Muslim? Look, some of the best people I've met, and that's honestly hand on heart truth, growing up would tell you they're Muslim. Their identity, they're who they are a Muslim. Yeah. Now, when I pull and pick at their beliefs and their religions, like I just did 2 days ago in another Muslim in Luton, he was all the things he was arguing were non-Islamic points. He wasn't arguing the Islamic argument. Correct. Whether it be for death for homosexuals or whether it be all the points he was making,
adultery and apostasy,
they go against the teachings of Islam. So I think it's great that we have lots of non-practicing Muslims, but I see a pure devout Muslim as a problem. That's because I see that they'll take the teachings literally.
And what we are seeing currently in not only the EU, but here in America, which I've covered a couple of topics on my Live Life channel. This is Joe, by the way, where I got to point that out because he doesn't see who I am. He just sees Skeptic Fence Show. I know, like I haven't been talking to the guy for the last couple months. Is that there's like jihad being had in America in the EU, and a couple examples. The one example that I made a video about is like Muslims being kicked out of a diner because they were there for over an hour when it's the policy of the diner being kicked out. Now there's this big lawsuit against the diner, and people need to know. People need to read all about that. Yeah, I read all about that. Yeah, people need to realize that when it comes to jihad, it's not just by the sword. It's by word. It's by speech. It's by writing. It's about money. There's different types of jihad. Political.
And what they've done in the UK is. Every single institution, from prisons to colleges to universities, everything has been infiltrated and taken over.
Yep.
Everything. They are using all of them to further propagate their ideology.
And this is so funny that you state that, Tommy, is because Gad Saad, I'm sure you know who Gad Saad is.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
He's a friend of the show. We interviewed him a few months ago, and he stated the same thing. Is like, when it comes to our university, he's never experienced the shit that we are dealing with now in university when it comes to the PC culture, the SJW culture, and then people blocking out the expression or the blocking out free expression and free speech and hindering to their own ideology, and they're trying to extinguish open debate, which is just ridiculous to me, man. I'm just like, how can you?
They distinguish open debate,
It's amazing.
but yet allow the most anti-Semitic creatures to come and talk at the university.
Yes, exactly.
So they're happy for it to happen on one side, but then anyone's saying anything. I've had debate after debate cancelled. Edinburgh University, Durham schools.
Well, that's because you're a far-right racist, Tommy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it. 'Cause I'm a lunatic.
And it's amazing what Milo Yiannopoulos is dealing with now. You know, he got kicked off of Twitter and like all these universities in America he's visiting, and they're trying to hinder his free speech.
Whenever they make a move like that,
it's amazing.
I think it's amazing, and I think it will backfire. I think it does backfire.
It will. It definitely will.
I think Milo's now got a bigger character and bigger persona as who he is everywhere because of Twitter's decision.
Especially in America here, recently.
Especially in America, and I think he's brilliant.
He is, of course he is.
I think he's brilliant. And even when some people say inflammatory things I don't agree with, Katie Hopkins does it.
Yeah.
I still think she's brilliant. I still think he's brilliant. So, I think he's great.
It's so amazing with him. It's like, listen, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I'm a liberal, a true liberal. I try to promote that. But when he speaks of, it doesn't really have to deal with any political adherence. It's like about speaking truth. You know, we got to speak truth on these issues. That's what pisses me off. Yeah,
and you see liberalism. You see, when you talk about liberals, until I met Dave Rubin, until I heard and listened to him, I despise liberals because in the UK, I'm telling you, because in the UK, being a liberal doesn't mean what being a liberal means in America. In the UK. Liberal and being liberals is basically accommodating Islam. That's it. So when I listened to Dave Rubin, I started listening to him because I'm a liberal. If you go through my views, but I'm not right wing or far right.
That's what funny people say about you is like, oh my god, so far extreme right. I'm like,
well, why?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I always say. Well, if you want to ask me questions about my political beliefs, if you want to ask me questions about my beliefs on gay marriage, on all these things, I'm not. What are you talking about? I don't have any views.
I know.
I'm not against immigration, even. I'm against Islamic immigration. I've never, ever, ever said anything. I said, so I'm putting this bracket in this box because it helps people. That's what they want to do. They want to say, well, he's saying this because he's far right. And then until I watched Dave Rubin, listened to Dave Rubin, I thought, you know what? Here I am listening to this bloke who, that is a liberal. That's I agree with that.
Oh yeah.
But not in this country. It's very different. The meaning of the word and the identity of that has been destroyed in the UK.
Yeah.
It's been destroyed in the UK.
Correct.
Until I saw Dave Rubin and started listening to him, I thought brilliant because that is a unscared a liberal who's still speaking honestly.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm like
that's basically all it is.
I'm like
someone who's not, because most of the liberals in the UK would say they're liberals, but really they're pushing a Marxist sort of agenda. Yeah,
Marxist. Yeah, it's like we met up with Dave Rubin a month ago for the Reason Rally. Wasn't really about Reason, but we met up with Dave Rubin and we interviewed him, and he's going to be on our next show after this one, and he's a good guy. I like David. And he's doing really good works, of course. But he's still a little bit on the. He's still a little
liberal, but in the UK they're seen as they're just seen as far right.
Yeah, he's still a little on the edge there, so he's going to improve, I think. So we got to give him credit where credit's due. I'm like, he's doing something like we are doing here, like addressing the real problems, being honest about it. But
anyone who speaks honest about Islam is courageous. They're brave.
Bingo.
Because at these times in our history,
exactly,
it's not easy.
All right, I got two more questions, and then we're good to go. F Equivalence asked, to what extent do you think the EDL influenced UK politics? Did politicians take rape gangs and terror more seriously?
If you do a graph, because I've done it myself, if you do a graph and you do draw on the graph arrest for rape for Muslim grooming or rape grooming, and you'll have a straight line from where it's going to completely steady. Then you have the birth of the English Defence League in 2009. From 6 months later, that line and that graph will literally go straight up.
Yeah.
Through the roof in investigations and arrests. I think it gave people the confidence. I think it put it on the map. I think that where they'd hid things for 20 years, when you've got 2,000 men screaming through a city that our daughters are being raped in speeches, and we had banners and placards saying our daughters are not halal meat, and we're telling the world's media, because they couldn't hide it anymore. The world's media are listening to us. The whole world's hearing about us, and we're telling you all what's happening. They couldn't hide it anymore. So I think to this day now, without the English Defence League, that may well still be covered up. If I tell you one instance, like you won't believe some of the things. The police force that covered that up, was South Yorkshire Police. Now, 6 months into the EDL, we're having a demonstration in South Yorkshire. We have it planned. I go to Luton Airport. This is for saying separate, but 2 weeks before the demonstration, I go to Luton Airport to fly up to Scotland. I'm arrested by Special Branch. When I'm held, 20 police officers from South Yorkshire Police come down. 10 officers to my house, 10 officers to my mum's house. They raid the properties. They seize all phones and all computers. They bail me on a criminal damage charge. I come out of the police station, like, criminal damage, really? What they said was broken on a hotel room door that I stayed in the hallway, was the counter lever, the metal thing that joins the door to the hinge.
Correct, yeah.
£30 of damage. And they've done all these raids. When they give me my bail conditions were not to contact members of the English Defence League. My bail date was the same date that I was due to be speaking in South Yorkshire. Now, when I got out, I put a complaint in for the IPCC, which is the Independent Police Complaints Commission. When the results of that come back 2 years later, they actually had a statement from the hotel manager clearly stating I had nothing to do with any criminal damage. But they used this to come into my property. Now, this was before South Yorkshire Police had been exposed. This was their desperate attempt to put the cat back in the bag. They were coming down and kicking off my doors, because what do they do here? These groups are coming in their thousands. They're coming into South Yorkshire where we are, and they're going to be telling everyone that we've let these kids been raped for the last 20 years. So their tactics was shut him up at all costs. They come down, they made illegal raids. I've got all the paperwork for it. All the admitting. I've done another speech similar to my Oxford speech. I've done one at the boarding school, at the top boarding school in London, and it was about police. And I went through all of this. I showed them all the evidence. I said, look, here's the evidence. Here it is. They sent their police officers on training courses because of what they did. They're accepting what they did, but they don't care. They didn't care at that time because their job was to shut me up. Their job was to silence what we were saying. Then it's all out. Everyone knows about it. The whole world knows what's gone on now. And I think behind closed doors, look, we're never going to get a pat on the back. No one's going to say, look, yeah, thank you very much for that information. You've helped us along. No, they'll use us as scapegoats so that it gives them confidence when they're slagging Islam off.
Correct.
They'll also slag us off.
Yeah, exactly.
They say, yeah, but the English Defence League as well. That's how they used it. I don't care. You can slag me off every day on the TV if you want, as long as you're dealing with a problem. I don't care if you use me as a counter object. I'm not bothered. So long as you're dealing with the problem. So, yeah, do I think things moved on? Yes, I do. Do I think that it raised huge issues? So many issues we raised. Yeah, I think it was successful in those terms. If there's one thing, if I want to leave any legacy behind or anything, then I'm happy in the knowledge that those crimes were exposed.
Listen,
and what we knew was going on for 20, 30 years, what we all know is happening in our towns and cities, now everyone knows.
Listen, Tommy, you already have a legacy, so you don't have to worry about that, brother. Yeah. Trust me. I'm like, you're starting to come over here to the States where a lot of people like us are talking about you and just like expanding your knowledge on the issue. So don't think that you don't have love here in America. You do. So
no, great. I'd love to get back out there one day, man.
Yeah, of course. But two more quick questions. If you want to be quick on these, that'd be great.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I know, because I know you rant a lot, which is great, and we have a lot of questions. But this interview is going great. Trust me. One question I have is: there's a lot of people that talked that or said that you were part of the BNP for a year with Nick Griffin. Of course, I would say he's a figurehead. Of course, when it comes to that movement. People say he's a known racist, this and that, and Tommy stayed with him for a year in the BNP. So I know the issue you had with the BNP, and you brought your friends that were black there, or a couple friends that were black, and you're like, okay, we're here. Well, him are not allowed here. So expand why you were a part of the BNP for a little bit, or when you
when you drown in your clutch at straws, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
And we were drowning. My town's been drowning since I can remember. I was 20 years old. This was at the same time that I started learning about Al-Mujahideen. It's the same time as the Beslan massacre. If you look up, so in 2004, I joined the BNP. I searched online for who would talk about these issues when I'm learning all about Islam and in my hometown.
Which a rational person would do, right?
Yeah. So, and the only people talking about it were the BNP.
Yeah.
So then what I did is I joined up on a 12-month membership. Now, there's a leaked list. There's a leaked British National Party list from 2002 to 2007, say, yeah? Now, on this leaked list, it shows I'm a member in 2004. It shows that I didn't renew that membership in 2005 or ever again. Yeah? As
Correct,
a 20-year-old kid, from the background I'm from, I knew nothing really about politics. I joined the BNP. They set up a meeting on our estate anyway, in one of the pubs. And when we turned up, you're right, they wouldn't let. They said he can't come in. Black people can't join the EDL. Now, can't join the BNP. Now, for me, I was like, what? What do you mean they can't join?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? So you can go die? You can go die for Her Majesty's Armed Forces or lose your legs fighting for our country, but you can't join your political party. I said, what's all that about? And then so basically that was the fallout we had, and this is well documented because at the time Searchlight, which is the far left,
Yeah, I
magazine,
know it is well documented.
right. Well, in Luton, our football hooligans are called the MIGs, and the Men in Gear, and that's our football hooligan name, like the gang name. Now, at that time in my age, I was very prominent in that football scene. Yeah, and the document which was online said that the time the MIGs fell out with the BNP, and that's it. And for us, that didn't fit with who we are because in the MIGs you've got all colours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you've got everyone. So yeah, that was it basically. And I didn't rejoin. And to be honest, I didn't know Nick Griffin was I didn't know his relationship with the KKK. I didn't know that he denied the Holocaust. I didn't know that he was the ex-leader in National Front. I didn't know any of that
and you
stuff.
came out publicly to state this, which is, it proves the point that, like, people are like, oh my God, he backed. No, he was only there for less than a year. It's like, yeah, he had a membership for a year, but he didn't continue it. He just continued on with his activism. It's just like, come on, just like forget that.
It's
He
not
didn't
like I
know.
rejoined, or it's not like if I wanted to. For the person I am, whatever I do, I throw myself into it. If I wanted to, I could have become a high-ranking BNP person if I wanted to.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But
Especially
I didn't when I was out. I left it. I didn't achieve, which is why when we formed the EDL, for us, it was such a breath of fresh air.
Correct.
And for so many people, it was a breath of fresh air because for the first time, all of these nationalistic organisations they're anti-everything.
And it's multiracial.
Yeah,
so
us when we started the EDL, we're not anti-everything at all. We're just, that's why I was like, I don't care about anything really.
That's what pisses me off when it comes to people saying that you're racist or bigot. I'm just like, dude, this guy is speaking honestly about the situation. I'm like, he has friends that are black, other races,
do you know what?
Muslims,
do you know my offences, which people always bring up on my criminal offences? One of them for headbutting someone.
Yeah.
That person I headbutted, I went to the demonstration. There was a group within our organisation called the NEI, the North East Infidels.
Yeah.
Now I saw them all spouting off about nigger this, nigger that, nigger this, nigger that,
Yeah.
and they're going through. And I'm reading it all, thinking, well, that's not what we're about. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I've gone to that demonstration. I've got on stage. You can watch this speech as well. Just put in Tommy Robinson Blackburn. Yeah. I go on stage. I stand up on the stage. I get a Sikh man's hand who's with me. Yeah. And I hold up his hand and I said, North East Infidels, are you in this crowd? Yeah. Look at this. This is what we're about. Yeah? You're here. You have a very different belief to us. Yeah. I said, yet you're in the middle of our organisation. And then I started reading out their names. Now, I'll tell you the truth. At that time, this is how I dealt with it. Yeah? My intention was to knock the man out in front of the world's media. Yeah?
Nice.
So I called him out. I called out them and I said, Alan Smith, come up here. Yeah? Show me where you are. Because what you have to understand is that may sound like a bit aggressive or a bit thuggish, but you have to understand that in those early 2 years, we were fighting within that movement for control and to keep elements out. Yeah. So this was my opportunity to put it all out. And that's what I used this demonstration for. I knew this demonstration was going to kick off. I knew we were all going to end up fighting them because they were all coming. And they're all coming with different agendas and ulterior motives to what we have.
Yeah.
So, and they're coming in small numbers of 20 here, 20 there, but those 20 can cause a big problem in our demonstration.
Of course, yeah.
So I got up on stage, I called him out, I then come down off the stage and I knocked him out.
Nice.
And I was arrested. Later, I was taken to court and prosecuted. So when all these people call me racist, I think, call me racist, I'll knock them out.
I
I'm
don't.
not
I
Nazis
listen.
out. I've done more. Another time, I was in Luton. We're standing there because 5 MEPs have come over, and this may not. Some of your viewers may think you sound like a hooligan or a thug, but that's part of who I was. That's not that. I don't deny that. So I'm standing there, and from over my shoulder, someone just shouted Hitler. Before I had a chance to even think, I've turned around and chinned him. So it's and I have all these, and I have these things where people are saying, "Oh yeah, he's a racist, he's a Nazi." I think, shut up, man. You know what I'm talking
It's
about.
so amazing. Like I deal with this too, Tommy. So does Anthony. So does Paul. So does Greg.
Really fucking
I mean, like
tiring.
when we deal with the topic that surrounds Islam, I'm like I deal on my personal channel. Like I got like 9,000 subscribers, and like when I make videos, I hear the opposition come to me saying, "Well, you're racist. You're a bigot." Well, why? Well,
Why?
why?
Tell me.
Why?
Talk to me.
They never say the why, Tommy.
No, they can't. It's been used. It's been
can't.
used as a way of silence. It's been used
Silencing
as a tool.
dissonant views. They don't care about that. Opposition, oh my God. How dare
And
you?
they're the racist most of the time.
And they're, bingo. Absolutely, Tommy. They're the racist. And it's so funny. It's the shit we're dealing with in America when it comes to Black Lives Matter. It's like when we speak against police brutality, what's the percentage of that? 0.004% of all homicide rates. And then when we look at homicide rates when it comes to blacks, well, that's 53%. And like they want to, they don't want to address that. They don't want to address that. They want to address the 0.04 of police committing homicide, when 95% of those homicides are justified. They don't want to deal with those facts. And this is the shit we're dealing with. The people like us that are dealing with the facts and the statistics and being objective on these stories. And it just totally pisses me off. So it's ridiculous.
Mate,
It's amazing.
Imagine in the first two. I'm 6 years out of this now. Everyone knows who I am and what my beliefs are. And in fact, you just have to go online and look at all the far right organisations. They despise me. They hate me. I made one video. I talk about it in the book. I made a video, yeah, and I named all these far right groups. And I said, listen, you're my enemy. Yeah, you're my enemy. Same as these lot, right? And I'm sure I'm fat. I'm 5'6" and I live in Luton. Yeah. I said, if you've got a problem, come to Luton. I said, stop shouting. But that, because at this time, that's how I felt we had to deal with it in this street protest movement scene. It had to be dealt with. So I done that, and lo and behold, I'm out, and I get a phone call from a landlord of a pub, and he says, someone's travelled 6 hours. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Some bloke on his own has travelled 6 hours. He's gone into he's looked up online to see which pub is associated with Luton football fans. He's gone into that pub and asked, do you know where Tommy Robinson is? The landlords rang me up and said, someone's in here from Newcastle, they're looking for you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've then said, Sam, I'm on my way. I've come down, and when I've come in, he was a member of this North East Infidels. And he sort of like said, and we've gone outside and just toe to toe out the back of the pub. We've knocked hell out of each other. And then, and that's the only one person out of all those people over those times who travelled down.
A white guy, Tommy?
That was a white guy, yeah. He was a far right Nazi.
Oh
yeah.
God, fuck him.
He was a Nazi, yeah.
He was a Nazi,
That does take some balls, man.
Yeah, I respected him for it.
Yeah.
I respected him for it because he come on his own. But I made sure when it happened, because I remember at the start of it, someone else from the pub tried to join in, and I broke it all up and said, no one joins in. He's come down. No one joins in.
Come down for you, yeah.
And that's so. Yeah, I've had loads of.
This is
So
great.
when I hear all this, all these things, I think
What a boy.
you have no idea, man. You have no idea. Do you know what I mean? And that's and that's not even a stance. Again, that's not a stance. I'm saying I done that because I want to do it or I enjoy it. I done it because I felt I had to do it, and I have to, as a person. If a Muslim stops me in Luton Town Centre, which they may well do tomorrow, they need to know that if you say something to him, yeah, he's going to roll around the floor, yeah.
Yeah.
Because most of them don't want that. Most of them really don't want that. But if they think they can bully you, they'll all run all over you. So I've had to make that decision, and I've had to decide to live that way, and I do that with everyone. So I always say online, if you've got a problem, I'll meet you. because I don't want anyone coming to my house and trying to look. You don't need to look for me. I'll come meet you.
I love your alpha approach to everything, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Alpha.
Tommy, I'm 6'1". I want to fucking mess with you, man. I bet you got a little ferret.
Tommy would fuck you up at being 5'6".
Yeah, little angry man.
It's like you got a problem with me, mate.
Little man syndrome. That's what it is.
We call those guys the scrappers.
Okay.
Fucking awesome.
Pure LMS syndrome.
All right, two quick ones, and we'll go with an outro here. Quick ones. Leica, she's a friend of our show and also Anthony's show, which is the Flying Monkey podcast. Leica asked.
By the way, if you want to come on mine, Tommy, we get quite a big viewing as well. So
yeah, anytime, lads. I'm always happy to at any time chat these issues, because I think America, especially people listening, you need to understand not just what's going to happen there with Islam, not how they're going to do it, but what your state's going to do.
And that's what's great about you expanding to podcast in America, which is great. That's why I want to have you on the show.
You get Hillary Clinton in, mate, and everything I've experienced, you're going to experience. You're attacking freedom. Yeah,
exactly. Leica asked here, can you ask Tommy if he thinks there will be a tipping point before people in the West wake up, and what will it take, please?
And like is an ex-Muslim, by the way, living in Liverpool.
Cool.
So. Living in Liverpool, okay.
Yep.
There will be a tipping point. That's all out of our hands. That's what I've realised now. That's out of our... Do you know what I convinced myself in those days of the English Defence League at the start, when it was such a phenomenon, when everything was bouncing? I convinced myself that if they kill me, it'll be the tipping point.
Correct.
That's what I convinced myself. So I was walking around thinking, yeah, go on, do it. Because in my head, that's going to be the final nail in your own coffin. You're going to finish your own take on this country, because people are going to not have it. And then when Lee Vigby got killed, I sat there and thought, you know what? No one cares. That's what I thought. I'll get killed. No one ever talk about me after 6 months. So I realised that. And how can a soldier on our streets be beheaded and there not even be any sort of reaction?
Amazing.
So it was then that I started thinking, you know what? I don't think it would happen. I don't know what's got to happen. Something will change it. If you look at defining moments in history, Bloody Sunday was quite a defining moment in Northern Ireland's history. Who knows what will be our defining moment? Who knows? But I think a hell of a lot of people are going to have to die first.
Yeah.
Not when they do these terrorist attacks when 9 people are dead. Yeah, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to do anything. You need to kill 9,000. You know what I mean? And then maybe.
Then maybe you'll have a.
Then maybe. Chance. But something will give. It has to. They're the inevitable outcome. It's the only way it can go. There has to be a resistance and a fight back against it. The only thing we don't want is a resistance and a fight back where people start just targeting innocents.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, that's how I see it will go.
The left here in America, of course. But
of course, like
right
happening now,
yeah.
They're all wound up by Soros and his bullshit lies about figures and statistics and winding them all up to believe they're oppressed.
It's like when you try to mention that with BLM with Soros, it's like, oh no, he's not. Yeah, he is. It's like fact.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
and even if he's not, you're fucking all getting aggressive and angry off lies anyway.
Exactly, bingo.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely
the statistics and the facts are completely different to what you're doing, and you're in a very different situation in America because everyone has guns. So as a police officer, not like in the UK, as a police officer, you're rolling up on someone who's got a gun.
Yeah, the Bobby has a fucking weapon, or just
Yeah, you don't know. You know what I mean? And if I'm a man in America, whether I be black or white, and I know the rules of the situation with your police, when they turn up and tell me to put my hands behind my head, I'm putting my hands behind my head. And if I don't, then.
Yeah, I made a lot of videos recently about that shit, dude.
I'm sort of leaving myself a bit open there, especially if I start trying to roll around and fight with them.
No, I made so many videos about that recently, especially against TYT, the Young Turks. Of course, you know who they are. It's just like their insane view when it comes to police brutality is just amazing. It's disrespectful, and people should disrespect them. Last question I have, and then we're out here, and I'll do the outro. Last question for the night is. And this is from Dark Matter 2525, the guy that has fucking 600,000 subscribers. He asked, do you think Western policies help or hurt the spread of extremism?
I don't think they help at all. I don't think that the reason these things are happening is foreign policy. I don't buy into that.
Neither do I.
Because I don't buy into the fact that foreign policy is the reason that loads of Yazidi women are getting taken as sexual slaves. Well, foreign policy is the reason Nigerians are getting blown up 5 churches on Christmas Day.
And people need to realize this has been going on for 1,400
years. Right? But at the same time, I think Tony Blair's a war criminal. I think that our government has made terrible foreign policy decisions. Yeah. Whether they be for greed, for money, for power, for wealth, to rob countries of their wealth, whatever they be for. They've been wrong. I support our armed forces wholeheartedly, but I do not support the wars that our government has sent them into.
Correct.
So I feel that Look, I always look at things from both sides of the coin, and I always listen to the counter argument. And yeah, if you're dropping bombs on innocent people in other countries, you're gonna piss them off.
Correct. Yeah.
You're gonna piss them off big time. And at times we shouldn't have done it. That's it. And,
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
That's how I feel. Yeah. So I can't argue with the argument because I think you're right. When I hear the Muslims argue it, I think no, you're right. I'm disgusted at some of the things our government have sent our boys to do. I'm disgusted that they sent them fighting an invisible army. I'm disgusted they put our boys and their lives at risk, and we lost hundreds. But I'm also disgusted that hundreds and thousands of innocent Iraqis have also been caught up in this.
Correct.
When I think Iraq would be a better place than Saddam Hussein. I think Libya would have been a better place. It wouldn't have been a good place, but still a better place than it is. I think Libya would have been a better place with Colonel Gaddafi. I don't think he should have been removed. I don't like our foreign policy.
Yeah, we talked to Gad Sad about what happened to him in Libya and shit like that. So it's like sad what happened to him, but at least him and his family got out, which is Lebanon. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Lebanon, Libya.
I don't know. I'm never gonna sit here and slag the armed forces because I think that they've done an amazing job in whatever situation they've been put in. But the people that decided they go there, the people that pushed the buttons, the people that
Tommy, we can understand what the faults are when it comes to our countries being part of the situation, but we need to realize that Islam is the issue. It's been going on for 14
Islam
years.
Is the issue. It's a fucking,
jihadism and the doctrine and all that. We can honestly say that this is the main motivation when it comes to
the main motivation. Like even like when I went away with my Royal Marine mate just the other day, he's actually decided to leave the Royal Marines because there isn't a war. He said, he goes, you have to understand that. Look, I signed up to go to war. Yeah, I want to go to war.
Yeah,
right? With a real enemy. Like so, ISIS. I'd send people. I think we should go in and smash them tomorrow. Smash them to bits. Take them down. Every last one of them. But yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult situation. It's all difficult.
It's definitely difficult, man.
Yeah,
it's difficult. But when it comes to us addressing,
it comes to us addressing it, and it comes to us trying to fight ISIS in Syria. What's the point when they're in Luton?
Exactly. Look, I was trying to get to is like
they're here, all over our country.
The issue we're dealing with.
Of them. Yeah.
The issue we're dealing with now at the end here, I want to discuss real quick is like we understand, which I call the second mass Muslim migration. I'm like we go all the way back to the 7th to the 13th century. But the mass Muslim migration that's going on right now in the EU, it's creating havoc, man. It's creating high crime rates, rape statistics we can look at in Norway, Sweden, or EU,
everywhere.
In the EU, period. You know what I mean? And we see the statistics, the percentages going up, 5%, 6%, 7%, England, UK, France. We can look at the incarceration rate of Muslims in these countries. It's skyrocketing.
70% in France.
70% in France, 70%, right?
70% in the prison. 7% of the population, 70% of the prison. Mental.
It's pretty bad that people don't want to actually note those statistics, which is just insane, right? We see the issues that are being had in the EU. So people like us in America like to try to, at least this show likes to try to look abroad, see what's happening over there, even though we might have stricter venting laws, 18 months to get into the country. Okay, but I think if we have people like Hillary come in, I think it's going to ease up. I think it's going to be more dangerous. So, like, we're seeing our share of attacks right now by Muslims. And you know what pissed me off, Tommy, is that when we have attacks in the EU and in America here, they say, oh, they're lone wolves. Oh, they're lone wolves. They were inspired by ISIS. No, I'm sorry. They're inspired by Islam.
They were, yeah. They're
right?
inspired by ISIS. Well, ISIS
we have to be honest here when we talk about this.
It's just a name. Yeah.
It's just a name. And people use that name like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just ISIS. And these people were just lone wolves. No, it's Islam, dude. Because when we look at these people's past, their fathers, especially what happened in Orlando, the father said, yeah, he was a Muslim and this and I told him this and this and that. Yeah, I'm sorry. We got to look at that too. And a lot of people don't want to look at that.
You have to, America has to learn from what's happening in Europe. You have to.
You have to. You have to look abroad.
The fact that half the country don't seem to be or don't seem to want to be. Trump has his finger on the pulse, or had his finger on the pulse. When he comes out those comments, I remember seeing certain people screaming like, "Oh, he's just going to destroy himself by saying that." Nah. It's like, nah, you ain't got your finger on the pulse, mate. Everyone's scared. Everyone's looking at what's happening.
Everybody's scared to talk about it.
Yeah, that's it. But so everyone's feeling it. So yeah, you have to You have to. If you love your culture, love your country, you love your children,
Correct.
you want them to have a future growing up under freedom, under democracy, like you all have, then it's time to do something. That's what I keep saying. I can't look at Englishmen and just think, what are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we letting this happen? How has this happened? And our government, and the problem you get is from our point of view, which you'll have if Hillary gets in, is you'll have an enemy, but you'll have a government who support them.
You're 100% right, man.
You'll have a
Absolutely.
government who is supporting and facilitating that enemy because they are looking at block votes. That's what we have. So we have the Labour Party, which is now basically the Islamic Party, which never should be, because the Labour Party is the party in the UK that should represent the poor, represent the people from my community. But they've sold us out. They don't care about us. They don't care. All they care about is their block vote. Their block vote comes from the leader of the Council of Mosques. And whatever deal he does for his 19 mosques in Luton or 30 mosques in Luton, whatever deal he does with our council, they get in. They don't care about us. They don't care about us. We're not going to vote them in many of the towns that are overrun now are Muslims. And they see the demographical change. For example, in my hometown, the government forecast by 2030, which is 14 years away, the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities are going to increase by 70 to 77%. The white and black communities are going to increase by 1.3 and 1.4%.
You're 100% because
So they know the future. The future for these leftists, the future for Hillary Clinton's party.
Yep.
They know the future is in the minority. They know it's in flooding it with ethnic minorities. They know the growing demographic will be Islam. They know that.
You're 100% right, because you know why? Because Pew Poll just came out with a poll in December 2015, not long ago, where they state, like, Islam is going to be the popular religion by 2050. Now, the secularists, the people that are non-religious or non-affiliated, is going to rise, but only in America to a certain point, where they're saying that in America, secularism, the non-affiliated people, the atheists or whatever you want to call them, the non-believers, it's going to increase to about 50%. So they're going to become the majority in 2050. Now they're saying that Islam is going to supersede. They're going to be more than Christianity.
Yeah, and the thing
that's something we have to look at. And it's more prominent in the EU.
And these are figures. These are facts.
These are facts.
So Hillary Clinton's party, same as our.
And it's because of the fertility rate. People have to
the
look
fertility
at.
rate, which can be addressed. Which can be addressed if we try.
Of course,
it can be slowed down.
Yep,
it can be.
I agree. Yep.
If the bankers didn't want it not to be, though, So
yeah, true. Yeah.
We have problems.
Yeah,
we have huge problems, and I don't feel confident or happy or optimistic. I may sound like a depressant, but
you know what, Tommy, we gotta keep on doing what we do here. Not only you, but us here on this show, and Dave Rubin and all these other guys in America and in the EU podcast are doing what we're doing.
Just keep telling the truth. That's all we gotta do.
Bingo. That being said, Tommy, dude, thank you, man, for your wisdom, your knowledge on the subject, and thanks for fighting a good fight, of course, and of course against the Islamization of Europe, and by speaking out and being so objective on these issues. And thank you for spending some of your valuable time with us tonight, man. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, guys, man. It's been a pleasure, and
thank you, Tommy.
Safe and keep going. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy.
You rock.
Oh, Tommy.
Yep.
Just before. Well, end the stream. I just need to ask Tommy something before.
Okay, guys.
Actually, one thing for you. One thing for you, and
end the stream. Yeah. Go on.
No, I want to make a quick correction. I was wrong about the Quilliam thing. David Rubin was unsafe speech, not Quilliam. I just want to make a correction so I don't fuck up that thing publicly.
Yeah, no, because I know, I think that Dave, like most other people, it's hard not to think Majid Nawaz is brilliant when you hear him. It's hard not to. But there isn't an Islamic answer there. Majid Nawaz is arguing from an apostate point of view.
Well, Majid Nawaz likes going to strip clubs and shit like that. So
yeah, you know what I mean. Good lad.
He's not very good.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah, I'm with you, Majid.
Anthony, I think you got one more thing to say real quick, or no?
No, that's after the stream.
Off air? All right, let's go off air, guys. Thank you very much. Tommy, Jesus Christ, keep on doing what you're doing, guys. Visit Tommy on his website at tommyrobinson.co.uk, and please support Tommy and his works, and of course, support his book. Buy his fucking book. Please do so at Amazon or on his website, tommyrobinson.co.uk. Tommy, epic, man. Thank you very much, man. This was an incredible interview, man.
Thank you,
Fantastic.